Welcome back to the Rodcast. Oh, yes, a great Rodcast it will be today because we have so much to discuss. We'll get into the NCAA tournament, of course. The men will be in action facing Colorado State. We'll talk about that. The Texas men in their showcase performance in the NCAA tournament in the first round. We'll talk about that, break it down from every angle. Of course, we had the Texas Pro Day yesterday. A lot of representation. Matter of fact, all 32 teams represented at the Texas Pro Day in some way, form, or fashion. We'll get into that too and break it down. Those will be our two main topics, but we got some NFL news, notes, and nuggets to get to. There right now is another movement for the NFL to change the kickoff return. We'll talk about that. A new proposal. We'll break that down. Also, the Cowboys. There's some Cowboys discussion. Cowboys starting quarterback Dak Prescott's brother has made a statement of sorts. So we'll listen to that. We'll hear that and also talk some Dallas Cowboys coming up on the show. We also have your big fat poll of the day. That'll be coming up at 6:45. We'll go behind the burnt orange curtain, talk a little Texas football. You got spring football happening too. So we'll get back to that coming up when we go behind the burnt orange curtain. Rod's rant of the day. We'll talk about the NFL. The NFL's, once again, their priority positions, what they consider essential positions, the premium positions. A couple of Longhorns actually playing some of those positions who will be draftable prospects. We'll talk about that and dive a little bit deeper into it. A little football theory coming up in Rod's rant of the day. We got off the record. We got what the facts. We got who said that. We got a lot coming up on the show. Let's not waste any time. Also, we got Horn Headlines, and the man that brings you Horn Headlines is my co-host, and let's introduce him right now. He's the real MVP, one of the hardest working members of the ARN family. Got a hustler spirit, period. We don't know what he's paid, but we're pretty sure this man is underpaid. Ain't no 401k for a hustler, and he is a hustle man of many talents. He is my friend, neighbor, and co-host. It's Patrick Davis, y'all. What's going on, Patrick?
Doing good. It is March Madness time.
Yes, it's upon us.
I get to watch basketball all day today and all day tomorrow. Man. It's a good time of year when it's just basketball all day long. Now the bad part is I'm sure my bracket will be busted by about this by what 4 or 5 p.m. tomorrow afternoon. Just completely.
Yeah. Don't let that ruin a good time, man. Don't let. I always tell people, don't let the bracket being busted affect your good time. Enjoy the madness. Enjoy the March Madness, man. Enjoy. Yes. Soak it up.
Exactly. My co-host is a proud alumni of DBU. He's got more papers than Dunder Mifflin and watches more film than Siskel and Ebert. He is the new Rod father of Austin Sports Radio, Mr. Rod Babers.
Appreciate the intro as always. Also, I appreciate the people out there. Patrick and I both do. You can join the show and participate on the text line 512-447-3776. Like I said, we'll have your big fat poll of the day coming up at 6:45. That's always an interesting discussion on the text line, but it is a lot to get into. I mean, we could go either way. You could dive into Texas basketball and preview that match versus Colorado State, which we will early and often, but also Texas Pro Day, big day on the 40 acres for Texas football. It really did. It symbolized a turning point for Texas. I don't believe Texas has had head coaches on the 40 acres at pro days in a long time. They had 3 of those head coaches on the 40 acres representing for pro day. Mike McDaniel, who is, I mean, everybody considers him like one of the cool coaches in the NFL now. Yeah. He was represented. Zach Taylor was there. The Cincinnati Bengals head coach was there as well. Shane Steichen was also there. Jim Nagy reported that D'Amico Ryans was there, but I didn't see any photos or pictures of D'Amico Ryans, but he could have been there because Nick Caserio was there.
Yeah, I saw the pictures.
And Bobby Slowick was there, the offensive coordinator. So if they brought a bit of the caravan, maybe, and D'Amico is a low-key guy, so maybe D'Amico's just kind of sitting in the back kicking it, and nobody really got photos, but I did not see. But Jim Nagy did say that D'Amico Ryans was in attendance too. They had GM Chris Greer was there from Miami, the GM from the Colts, Chris Ballard was there as well. I would point out that Nick Caserio, that he as a GM, the Texas GM, he was there. All 32 teams represented in some way, form, or fashion, and over 90, basically 96 scouts, coaches, or GMs or execs were in attendance at the Texas Pro Day.
Yeah, and I think one of the important pieces to note in that is that it was also Alabama's Pro Day, and I believe it was also Ohio State's Pro Day.
Yeah, I think USC.
And USC, and USC too. So there was a lot of other major teams and prospects that were being there. So I think it adds on to it that you're not even having to schedule this where Texas might have in the past scheduled it on a day where they felt they would be the main team so they could get a few more people to show up. They did this in full competition with the other big brands across the country, and they were still able to get the people they wanted to show up. But yeah, it was we knew Mike McDaniel was going to be there. The fastest guy at the combine. Mike McDaniel runs the track team out there in Miami. He had to show up, right?
Yeah, exactly. I want to see it in person. I want to see it. I want to see it in person. I want to see how it looks. And it is if right now Mel Kiper's got he's got 3 Longhorns in the first round. He's got Byron Murphy, and he's got both receivers, A.D. Mitchell and Xavier Worthy. And I believe right now he's got Xavier Worthy actually drafted ahead of A.D. Mitchell. He's got A.D. Mitchell along with Darren Jeremiah. They got A.D. Mitchell going to the Kansas City Chiefs, which is weird because a couple of weeks ago everybody had Xavier Worthy going to the Kansas City Chiefs prior to that Hollywood Brown acquisition. But it is really interesting because you look at the guys who may be drafted in the first round. If X-Man does slip to the second round, I don't know if Miami could justify it in the first round, considering you got a top dollar receiver. You're paying the highest. You're paying Tyreek Hill the highest salary for a receiver in the league, and you got a Jalen Waddle. But man, he slips in that second round. I think Miami would prioritize it. I think they'd trade up. He'd be a trade up guy. A lot of teams be trying to trade up if he does slip out of the first round.
Yeah,
let's be honest. But I think Miami, as you pointed out, that guy prioritizes speed. That's something him and Sark have in common. That and their admiration of the Shanahan coaching tree, which Mike McDaniel is a part of. I could see that. I could see that scenario happening, but only if X-Man slips out of the first round, which he could, because it's a really deep wide receiver draft. So, we don't know what's going to happen, but apparently a lot of scouts were really impressed with X-Man. We'll get to some of those reports. We got your Horn headlines coming up. We'll get to some of the reports coming out of Pro Day, which were, for the most part, really, really good. I think there was maybe one player that didn't help themselves at Pro Day, maybe just one. Maybe one of those players. I think everybody else, I think there were 12 participants, and I believe only one didn't help himself. Like, I'll tell you who that one person is too. I will get to that. But I'm not trying to be negative. I think everybody else, I think, really did well. And there are reports of that, which we'll get to some of that. And we'll talk about what this means for Texas football, the program. But also, I want to give my man Patrick Sells. I know he's been diving deep into this Colorado State team for Texas. Interestingly enough, I don't know, it didn't make me paranoid, but it did make me think of the worst case scenario potentially for Texas. When I saw Ken Palm basically has this thing as a push.
I mean, the reality of it,
50-50.
This is a matchup that a lot of people are picking for the upset, and mostly because they don't believe in Texas, which I understand. I can understand not believing in Texas, because depending on what game you watched, that you could watch a game where they don't show up and play, and I've seen some of the reports, and some of the people that are betting Colorado State, their main feature is Texas is shooting over 50% in some of these games and still losing. And if you're doing that and not being able to play enough defense to be able to stop a team when you're shooting 50% and they're going to shoot 60% on you, then you're going to lose a lot of basketball games. On the flip of that, I think there is way too much credence being put on Colorado State shutting down Virginia. I think that is a false narrative. I think that's one that you didn't necessarily watch that game, because when you watch the game, Virginia got shots up. It wasn't necessarily that Colorado State smothered them with defense so much as Virginia couldn't hit the broadside of a barn, because they got open shots. But Texas has done that this season too. This really is. This is an effort. This is an effort game for Texas. This is a game for Texas. They show up and really bring it. And this is a Max Abmas game. I think they're all going to be Max Abmas games. If he doesn't come out and play like, his entire future career is based on what he can do against real talent as opposed to what he did at Oral Roberts, then Texas is going to have a hard time. If he doesn't want to play off, if he gets double teamed and backs up off of it and doesn't attack and doesn't try and initiate and doesn't try and instigate on the offense, then they're going to have problems offensively. And in Max Abmas, traditionally, if he doesn't play well offensively, doesn't really put a ton of effort in and rebounding and defense. Now, he can do better in all of them. They're going to attack him defensively. Definitely, he's the weakest defender on the Texas team. So they're going to go after him defensively. But he can usually hold his own enough. And if he scores on the other end, then it all evens out, because he'll score, he'll hit the threes, he'll be doing fine. But the problem is, he just has to be the guy who wants to go do that. He can't be waiting for his opportunity anymore. He knows he is the target of every guard. You're not going to double IT Horton. You're not going to go spend extra effort on Tyrese Hunter until those guys show up and start hitting shots. You're going to put everything on Max Asmus because you know if he's open, he'll kill you.
Yeah.
But that's the question is, can he go do that? And again, Dylan Nassau stays out of foul trouble. I think he'll be a beast inside against this Colorado State team. But it's basically everything you read about why people are picking against Texas is effort. Will Texas show up and give 110% effort like they did last season in the NCAA tournament? Can they go out and do that? You're not going to know until you get on the court if you're going to see them start to implode or if they're going to come out flat again and try and be too cool for school, which they've done a lot of times this season where they came out and try to just slow it down and we're going to be real good. And then, they end up shooting a shot that's just a really bad shot because they're not trying to attack. They're not trying to go after it. You have to attack. You have to be aggressive in the NCAA tournament. This is a tournament that they're going to favor offense over defense. If you attack and are aggressive, you will get rewarded for it with free throws. You will get rewarded for it by the defense having to back off you a little bit. Yeah. If you don't do that, if you're on the other end of it and you're just trying to play, get big shot blocks and whatever else, you're going to get in foul trouble and they're going to win. They're going to win. So you have to be able to be aggressive in this game. Everybody knows that. It's just a question of, do the guards decide to go in? I think not having a big shot blocker should help out some, because that is usually when Tyrese Hunter and Max Asmus really stay away, is when there is a big man in the post. They get a little bit more scared about going inside and getting a highlight reel from getting swatted away. But you just want to see that from Texas today. You want to see the effort come out for Texas today.
Yeah, no, it's going to be interesting. And you're right. They definitely have the advantage inside against this squad with their athletic bigs, Dessou, Shedrick, Dylan Mitchell. With that combined with guys being aggressive and getting to the rim, which means they should get to the charity stripe a lot. If that is the case, I think Texas can control the game that way. But you're right, things can get out of control if they settle for outside shots, which we've seen them do. And if I don't know, when they get in foul trouble with the bigs for Texas, that would be a problem too. But
and
I'm with you.
Let's put it this way: rebound the ball. This Colorado State team is awful at rebounding.
I'm glad you brought that up too.
They're a really bad rebounding team. So
I had
you have
the number here. They're 302nd, I believe.
Yes, yeah,
in the country. Yeah, 302nd in the nation in rebounding.
Yeah.
So you're right. Boom, you're on the money, brother, as always. But that goes back to the bigs, right? Texas athletic bigs.
Yeah.
I want to say their leading rebounder is Nick Clifford. He's a guard. Well, maybe a wing. I mean, he's but it's not necessarily a big man. Their leading rebounder.
Yeah, I think Clifford, was he 6'6", I think.
Yeah, so he's college basketball.
Yeah, and if you're a guard and you attack the rim properly, you're going to have your big guys box out for you. You can make it work where a bigger guard can get a lot of rebounds. I mean, we see Luka Doncic gets a double-digit rebounds every game because if you teach your bigs just box out, you're not going for rebounds, you're boxing out. The ball should bounce to the guy who's a good rebounder. That's not crazy, but for Texas, you have Dylan Nassau, you have Dylan Mitchell. Don't get boxed out that easy. And if your guards attack, because they're not a fast break team, they're not a team that's going to run down your throat. They didn't do it against Virginia. They're not going to do it against you. So you just have to be aware of that you have this sizable advantage, but also it's March Madness. Anything can happen. Come out with that energy.
Yeah, that's another big advantage Texas has in this matchup with Colorado State. A couple of them, but I think one that could play huge for Texas second half of this game. So we'll get into that too after the Horn headlines. So we'll come back after the Horn headlines and we'll talk about Texas Pro Day a little bit. Basically, we'll be going back and forth between Texas Pro Day and Texas's first round game against Colorado State, Texas men's basketball. We kind of go back and forth. The ladies, we understand they got the number 1 seed, and they're gonna put them hands on Drexel. All right. I can tell you that right now. They're not literal hands, but they're going to beat them up pretty bad. So that's why we're not breaking that down.
No. And also they don't play today. They play tomorrow.
They play tomorrow, but I'm just letting you know, that's not really an interesting matchup to break down because Texas women are so much better than Drexel. But as they get deeper into the tournament, a 1 seed will break down what the ladies are doing, but they're going to put an Old Testament style, old biblical butt whipping on Drexel.
Yeah.
There you go. All right. But after the Horn headlines, we'll get back into Texas Pro Day. And then we'll, like I said, we'll keep switching kind of back and forth, talking about the Texas men's first round game against Colorado State. But before we do that, let's hit the Horn headlines with my man, Patrick Davis.
All right, your Horn headlines brought to you by Top Gun Rentals and Lawn Equipment. Texas baseball took care of business yesterday, beating Air Force 12-3 behind the bats of Max Bullo and Will Gasparino. Charlie Harley gets his second win of the season, pitching 5 4-hit innings, allowing 2 earned runs. Texas gets a day off before facing Baylor over the weekend. Texas softball got a run rule 10-0 win over number 17 ranked Florida State in just 6 innings, with Mac Morgan picking up her 7th win of the season. Reese Atwood led the way with 4 RBIs off her home run and triple in the game. They start a series with UCF on Friday. The NCAA tournament field of 64 is set and ready for roughly 12 hours of action both today and tomorrow. Last night, Grambling edged out Montana State 88-81 in overtime for the opportunity to take on Purdue, and Colorado overcame a slow start to knock off Boise State 60-53, earning a first-round matchup against Florida. Tournament action kicks off this morning at 11:15 with Michigan State versus Mississippi State, and the Texas Longhorns tip off at 5:50 against 10-seed Colorado State. And finally, the Dodgers and Padres are in action once again this morning in Seoul, South Korea, as the Padres taking out a big lead early. They're up 8-2 in the top of the third. Shohei Ohtani is in the lineup after the Dodgers reportedly fired his longtime friend and interpreter after allegations of a massive theft related to illegal gambling, and that is your Horn headlines.
All right, thank you, Patrick, for the Horn headlines. One of the Horn headlines, of course, is about the Pro Day at Texas, which was an overwhelming success. You had in attendance, according to Matt Miller, NFL draft scout, does a really good job for ESPN as a draft analyst. He claims over 96 scouts, coaches, execs, and our GMs were in attendance at the Texas Pro Day. There were, like I said, Jim, and I'll get the quote here. I want to get the tweet. Here it is. Okay, so I want to make sure I quote him correctly. The Senior Bowl exec, Jim Nagy, he says, big-time NFL turnout in Austin today for Texas Pro Day, including 11 wide receiver coaches. So there are 11 NFL wide receiver coaches there. So more than a third of the NFL decide to send a wide receiver coach to look at the Texas wide receivers. We'll get into that just a second to check out Xavier Worthy, of course, and A.D. Mitchell. He also says 7 D-line coaches that were represented. So 7 NFL teams sent their D-line coaches to check out the best D-tackle duo in the draft, the best run-stopping defensive tackle, Devondre Sweat, and the best pass-rushing defensive tackle in Byron Murphy, and put them through position drills. He said, shout out to Sark for making Texas such a scout-friendly visit. He said, here's a full list of NFL attendees. Now, this is, like I said, this is his tweet. He said, head coaches, Texans, Dolphins. So the Dolphins is Mike McDaniel, the Colts, that's Shane Steichen, and he says the Bengals, Zach Taylor. Those are the ones we had pictures of. I didn't see D'Amico Ryans, but Nick Caserio, when he went into GMs that were there, he pointed out that Nick Caserio was there. He also says the Colts GM, Chris Ballard, was there, and also the Dolphins GM, Chris Greer, I believe is his name. He was also there. And we talked about Nick Caserio, of course, being there. He said OCs, Cowboys had their OC out there. Brian Schottenheimer, which he's not the play caller, Mike McCarthy's play caller, but he's also the head coach. The Dolphins had their OC out there. The Colts and the Texans had Bobby Slowick out there. Defensive coordinators, the Patriots had their DC out there. So did the Texans, and so did the Dolphins. Dolphins brought the whole squad. Dolphins, according to Jim Nagy, the Dolphins and the Texans came deep. They brought the squad. Wide receiver coaches, the Giants, the Patriots, the Vikings, the Ravens, the Colts, the Steelers, the Jets, the Texans, the Chargers, the Bears, the Eagles. And as we pointed out, you just pointed out that Ohio State had their pro day. It means Marvin Harrison Jr. is working out. And you got 11 wide receiver coaches that are saying, hey, man, I got to go down to Texas, see them Texas dudes, man. I got to go down there. We'll get – but Marvin Harrison Jr. didn't work out. I will say that. He decided not to – I think they said he ran routes, but he didn't work out. He didn't work out the combine. It didn't test and work out at pro day either.
No, he said that he is not worrying about working for the combine or pro day. He is working to get ready for next season. Is what he is saying. He's
good for you.
Hey, he might be in that boat. He might be in that boat of, man, Malik Neighbors is really good, Arizona. Hey, Arizona, Malik Neighbors is really good.
Hey,
you know what? I'll go to the Chargers. You have fun in Arizona. I'll go to the
hey,
Chargers. I don't care
that
being the fifth
is
pick. Do
good
not
for
put
him.
me in Arizona.
Yeah, maybe he's doing. You're right. Maybe it's calculated. But when you got that kind of clout, Marvin Harrison Jr. He's got the name, and everybody believes he's been considered the top wide
Yeah.
receiver prospect in whatever draft he was coming out. You can do that. Not everybody can do it. If you can do it, hey man, use your leverage. The running backs, the Bears sent their running backs coach, which is interesting because they already got a Longhorn there in Rojo. They sent their running backs coach. They're the only team that sent their running back coach. D-line coaches in attendance. The Saints, the Bears, the Saints, Bears, the Raiders, the Jets, Jets, the Colts, the Vikings, and the Giants. Linebackers coaches, this is good for my man Jalen Ford. Giants, Bengals, Vikings, Jets, Chargers, Eagles, Saints, which is pretty good. And special teams coaches, the Colts and the Jets. Good for you, Keelan Robinson. Also, that's really good news for Keelan Robinson, actually, because there's another proposal that is right now up for approval for the NFL to change the kickoff rule to something very similar, inspired by the XFL kickoff rules. So very similar to that. So we'll talk about that later on in the show. But there you go. I mean, that's not, like I said, I didn't see D'Amico Ryans, but there were 96 coaches there. So, I mean, you can kind of blend in if you want to. It was a little different. Chris Jackson, the new Texas wide receiver coach, he ran the drills with the wide receivers. Usually in my day and previously, the NFL scouts, there would be an NFL scout come in or a personnel guy, and they would run the drills. But the wide receiver drills were ran by Chris Jackson. So a very controlled environment with Quinn Ewers, a quarterback that you had great chemistry with. I did hear that AD Mitchell had like a couple of drops. But other than that, apparently those guys looked really, really impressive. And as I said yesterday, Quinn Ewers probably had more to gain than everybody else. And from all the reports, here's what I wrote down, what I was told. He had one bad throw, and he had one overthrow on an out route, and that was the one bad throw. And Bobby Burton told that two NFL scouts basically said, I saw one bad pass, and that he's just a natural thrower of the football. He had a presence about him, and I do think he teased NFL scouts enough. I knew he was going to kill it in the workouts. I mean, that's no question about that. But just his presence and the way he carried himself, that also matters. And apparently the coaches were really impressed with Quinn overall, looking at him too. So him and the wide receivers, they made themselves a lot of money yesterday.
Yeah, no, it's definitely a good look that they it was happy to see how many people are out there, how many people are looking. And it makes sense that wide receiver coaches are going to be out there if you have two top guys that you're trying to figure out, well, we may not have the top pick, but maybe one of these guys slips to the second, or they worth trading back up for in the second round. If they do fall, are they worth trading up to the first round pick? Are they worth that guaranteed money? I want to see Xavier Worthy in person. I want to see it speed in person. I want to see his hands in person if Xavier Worthy, because you are going to see the film from a year ago. And even though we know that, the reports were that he had a broken hand or whatever else coming out of it, that, you want to see, I want to see the sure-handedness of him when you get out there. And then the defensive line coaches, of course, you're going to want to see Tavondre Sweat. You want to see what he looks like out there. You want to see what Byron Murphy, does he look as good as he did at the combine? There's enough in top prospects that you want to send your guys out there. And then you fall into the world where you've talked about this, plenty of all the years that Texas wasn't doing a ton in pro days and everything else, that Texas still produced a large number of undrafted free agents. So all these guys know, they've always looked at Texas. They just looked at them and said, how much are they developed versus how much they're not? At this point, they're looking at them and asking, all right, okay, was this a 5th round pick, a 6th round pick? Are we looking at Ryan Watts different? Are we looking at Keelan Robinson different? Are we looking at these guys saying we don't want them? Christian Jones, do we not want to let them slip? Because we could end up and, do we want them to go undrafted? And, how important is it to our team to get them? Kickoff rules for Ryan Watson, Keelan Robinson, I think are going to be helpful. If you need to keep building up your special teams, both those guys, it would probably be helpful to have those special team rules favor kickoffs instead of removing them from the game completely. But at the same point, there still are punts. You're going to have to do some sort of special teams in the game. But yeah, it was a good thing to see how many scouts and coaches and general managers. I love the picture of Casario bending over, watching the defensive line drills.
Power stance, man.
The power stance. That was a good.
Yeah,
it was a good image to
see. That means he's deep in it. Sark's got one of those. Sark's got like a little power stance, and so they're like deep in focus. You can tell they're deep in focus there. But no, the wide receivers. I mean, think about this, guys. In LA Chin had this stat. If you look at Texas wide receivers drafted in the first 50 picks in the common era draft, the modern draft, guys, there only been 3 of them. Lamb Jones went second overall to the Jets in 1980, the year I was born. Last time Texas had 3 picks in the first round. Roy Williams, who I played with, my teammate, he got drafted 7th overall in 2004. My teammate twice, by the way. He's my teammate with the Longhorns and with the Detroit Lions. And 1971, Cotton Spire went 38th overall to Washington. And in Sark's third year, you may have 2 first-round receivers when you've had 3 in the first 50 picks. Like, period, in the common era draft, or at least in the modern draft. And you could potentially, you're definitely going to have 2 in the top 50, I think. But you could have 2 in the first round. At least that's what Mel Kiper is predicting. That just lets you know that is setting a statement to all, that is sending a message, I should say. And it is a statement to all the wide receivers, either in the transfer portal or the ones coming out of high school, that you want to be in a Sark offense. It's a wide receiver friendly offense, and it will feature and showcase you and weaponize you. And even Isaiah Bond said it, right? He said, I'm a business. He didn't say it like Jay-Z. He said like, I'm a businessman. I'm not a businessman. I'm a businessman. But he did say basically that his brand is a business, and that he chose Texas because he thought it was the best thing for his draft stock. He's talking about as a wide receiver. And this will confirm that or reaffirm that to a lot of wide receiver prospects.
Yeah, and I mean, you want to put your name in the conversation with the LSUs and Ohio States that really just draw good wide receivers year after year after year.
Mm-hmm.
And you say, look, the head coach is the guy who's doing this. Ryan Day's giving up play calling duties to Chip Kelly. You don't know what they're going to be doing up there at wide receiver anymore. You should come down to Texas. And, we're going to be in the SEC. Why would you go to LSU? Mm-hmm. Come on down to Texas. I think it's a great step forward of seeing that this wide receiver room will continue to build. And Jonte Cook and Ryan Wingo, Isaiah Bond coming over the transfer portal all seem to be adding to that, where it doesn't feel like it's going to let off anytime soon.
And to the D tackles, because that was the second most position coaches represented at the Texas Pro Day from NFL position coaches. 7 D-line coaches, according to Jim Nagy, came out to see Tavondre Sweat and Byron Murphy. Byron Murphy both of them looked great. The report was that Tavondre said that Todd Grantham, the Saints D-line coach, told him he made some money. Tavondre Sweat came in at a pound heavier than he was at the combine. He was 367 today. He weighed in at 367. He's making a statement. Hey man, I'm not losing weight for y'all. This is how big I am. This is where I play at. I'm not trying to, basically, I'm not trying to misrepresent myself. All right, that I'm actually 350, but when I'm actually 365, he came in heavier. He was 367, and he looked great. He moves. It's amazing the way he moves to be that big and that size. So I believe he made some money, but he's not trying to misrepresent himself. He's like, no, I'm 367. I'm a big human. So I think he did make some money. I don't know if he's going to be a first-round pick. I think Byron Murphy is cemented as a first-round pick. And they actually did some of the drills too. Byron Murphy did the 3-cone drill, ran a 7.75, which actually would have been second among D tackles at the combine. He continues to impress. But yeah, T-Sweat, bigger than ever. Doesn't matter.
He understands. I think he understands his market. He understands what he's doing. And this is what I'm going to be. And I don't want, this is when you're talking to draft stock. This is the guy you're drafting. As we know, Mozzie Smith, like Dan Quinn, wanted him to lose weight and got him to lose.
Yeah.
So don't draft me, Dan.
Don't draft me.
I ain't losing that weight.
If you want me to lose weight, don't draft me. I'm telling you right now. Don't do it.
If you want the biggest man, if you want the man who's going to come in here and dominate as a big man, you can draft me, and that's what I'll come in and do.
Yeah.
I like the Michael Huff shirt I saw him wearing the other day. He had the sweatshirt on that said "This is speed."
Oh.
They're like real speed or something like that. I can't remember, but it said that with a picture of Tavondre 1 in the 40.
That's great. Yeah, no, it's great. I mean, he looked really good, and so did. I mean, he'll be drafted in the second round, and I do think there are some teams who have a system that he's perfect for. Like I think Sweat's got. There are some certain teams in the NFL, probably half of them that are running a system that he'd be perfect for, and they're gonna love him when he falls to them in the second round. All right, we'll come back and go behind the Burners curtain. We'll continue talking about Texas Pro Day. We'll talk about the other players. Jalen Ford. I think there were 12 players total that worked out because Jet Bush was added to the mix too. I guess if you include Quinn, it was 13 because Quinn technically it was an unofficial workout, but he did work out. But he's not a draftable prospect, or at least he's not declaring for the NFL draft. So we'll come back and we'll talk about all the other guys too. But your big, I think, showcase performances, or at least the featured players, the highlighted players were, of course, Xavier Worthy, A.D. Mitchell, Byron Murphy, Tavondre Sweat, and like I said, I think Quinn Ewers is in that mix too. We'll come back and talk about the other guys, what they did to increase their draft stock, all of that and more when we return right here on the Rodcast featuring Patrick Davis. I'm lifetime Longhorn Rod Babers, coming right back on the horn. All right, let's continue our summary of Texas Pro Day and what the guys did to increase their draft stock. And like I said, I think almost every player improved their draft stock a little bit, even if it was just a very small. I think a very small improvement. I do think everybody except for one, and I don't think they hurt their draft stock, but I don't know if they necessarily improved it. Let's start with Keelan Robinson. I mean, Keelan Robinson had 20 reps on the bench, which was kind of mind blowing considering. I mean, I think Ryan Watts had 10 reps on the bench. I mean, that was I think that was as much as that was more than Jalen Ford had on the bench. I mean, they Jalen Ford 18. Now it was considering his size, you just wouldn't expect him to throw up the weight like that, 20 reps on the bench. So I think he actually helped his draft stock a little bit. Like I said, he's got it may be the football gods to work in his favor. If the NFL changes that kickoff rule, which there's a lot of momentum that they're going to shift to the XFL kickoff return. If that happens, guys like Keelan Robinson, and he's the best kickoff returner in this draft class. Not saying a team's going to draft him because of that, but he could become a priority free agent for a lot of teams. I'm still not sure if he's going to end up getting drafted, but being a priority free agent, means you'll pick and choose your opportunity. And, a team will bring him in as, one of the only guys they can put back there as a kickoff returner. And then he can make his way into being more of a boutique complementary piece offensively, because a team, if they're going to have you on the active roster, they want you to contribute in more than one way. I think he's, that right now, like I said, I think a lot of their factors right now, a lot of variables working out in Keelan Robinson's favor potentially, but he definitely did himself a service with the 20 reps on the bench.
Yeah, it always helps to show that you have, it's the ability and the forward, I can't think of the word right now, but if you can have just the passion to be able to work hard enough to get yourself into an ability to be able to do that, it shows his determination in the gym, his determination to get and that's kind of what you want to see, is like a lot of what they want to see from guys. When you talk about what the knock on Caleb Williams and the knock on Marvin Harrison Jr. for not, is they want to see guys compete. It's why we talked about them liking Xavier Worthy going for the 40 when he didn't really have to, and then doing it a second time when he didn't have to. They love to see the competitive side of somebody stick out. And for Keelan Robinson to want to push to 20 when he doesn't need to, it's not like something that most teams are going to sit and go, well, he did 20 reps and this guy did 15, so that's the better back or that's the better returner. However, to show that a guy will push himself to that limit to compete, that is something that you want to see.
Yeah, no, it's no question. I mean, you're right about that. He's got to work hard. That size, throwing up 20 reps on the bench. Trust me, that is. I guarantee NFL scouts, there's a little eye popping for them. You brought up Xavier record at the combine, and I didn't mention this in the first segment. We were talking about the wide receivers, but he said this on LHN. He said in training, his second 40 was always faster than his first 40, and that's why he went and ran it again. Because he said, and he ran a 4.25. He said in training, every time his second 40 was faster than his first. He was like, Lord, let me just go see if I can go out there and break the record. And yet, lo and behold, that's exactly what he did. So getting back to Keelan Robinson, another speedster, he actually, at the NFL Combine, remember, he was actually second in 10-yard split. He was fourth in the 40-yard dash among running backs. So Keelan Robinson trending in the right direction. Another guy who's trending in the right direction, and honestly, is drafted. And I don't know if he was a guy that I thought was going to get drafted prior to the off-season combine season, if you will, and these workouts, is Ryan Watts. Ryan Watts, guys, is trending toward being a late round pick. And, at the combine, he did some things that were really surprising. Like, everybody wanted him to see what his 40 would be. And he ended up running a decent 40. I think he ended up running, it was the 26th fastest 40, but I think it was like a 4.5, which is exactly what you need for a guy who's 6'3". But it was his change of direction that really surprised everybody. He was his change direction and his explosivity, if you will. He was sixth in his vertical leap. He among cornerbacks, by the way, at the combine. Second in the 3-cone drill, fourth in the short shuttle. In the gauntlet, his top speed was the best top speed, or the fastest top speed, I should say, among cornerbacks at 19.8 miles per hour. and his broad jump was 17th at the combine, but he went to the pro day and did the broad jump again and jumped 11 feet 11-1, which would have been the fourth best among cornerbacks at the combine. So if you combine his numbers, you're talking about the second best cone drill, second best 3-cone drill among cornerbacks, the fourth best broad jump among cornerbacks, if that's at the combine. All right, that was at his pro day though. Sixth best vertical, fourth in the shuttle, first in the gauntlet. I mean, his 40, like I said, it's just a 4.5, but that's for a guy who's 6'3", long, big wingspan. Even Mike McDaniel went to him and told him apparently that, hey man, you look really good, you look really smooth for your size, that you got versatility, and that he moves really well for a guy that big. And he claims that Brian Watts claims that half the teams that have talked to him want him to play cornerback, and the other half want him to play safety. I think he's a better safety at the NFL level. I've heard Mike Griffin say that as well. But I think the reason that teams are looking at him at corner in the right system, he does show some change of direction ability. And yeah, you can play corner running a 4.5. Quandre Diggs ran a 4.5. And he wasn't 6'3" like this guy. So long wingspan. If they want to play safety, now you can put him in on the practice squad as a developmental project for a long time. Not a long time, but at least a year or 2 years or so. I would say that there's no doubt Ryan Watts is making himself some money. I think he's going to end up being a late round draft pick potentially. I did not think that was the case before his workouts.
Yeah, I didn't either. Yeah. I thought that there was enough, where there was enough film that it's a guy who stayed long enough that there wasn't necessarily that he could be a prospect. He could be a guy, but it was just, there was too many things where it didn't look quite right to be for that. Yeah. Again, we talk about ceilings and floors a lot. That I don't think his ceiling was as high. Where you say, look, we know what he can do. He's going to be a good, his floor is pretty high. He's going to be he'd be a decent back. But if I'm drafting you, I want somebody that could be a every down player. And I'm not sure Ryan Watts ever really looked like he was going to be an every down player in the NFL. No. But he's showing now that he could work himself into not necessarily every down, but a lot closer than we thought he was going to be. And those guys are valuable. And a guy that could definitely, come in and give you enough time off the bench and enough guy to be a solid backup that, he could really get his chance. And then once you get your chance, that's all you can ask for in the NFL.
I know. And they're looking at him at a safety at corner. And I know I may sound like a broken record right now, but another guy with versatility, multiplicity in his skill set, right? A guy who can play multiple positions. I've been saying it for years. The future of football is positionless football. You want guys who can play multiple positions, guys who can move around, who offer solutions with their versatility for you. And once again, another Texas defensive back. Over 55% of the Texas defensive backs since 1999. So we're talking about the last 25 years. All the ones who have been drafted, the undrafted free agents who have made NFL rosters, over 55% of them played multiple positions in the secondary, guys. It's something that's been happening. I just think now teams are, and coaches too, like Sark and even like Sean Payton, go look at the Longhorns that he brought in. They're valuing versatility in roster construction. They actually are looking for guys who are movable chess pieces. They can move around the chessboard a little bit. Okay, so Ryan Watts made himself some money. How about Jaylan Ford? Jaylan Ford actually, I thought, also did well. He ran a 4.71. Only he and Jett Bush ran the 40. He ran a 4.71 40-yard dash, had 18 reps on the bench reportedly, 10.6 broad jump. I think the 3-cone was around 7.1 in the 3-cone drill. Jaylan Ford, I think him working out was adequate enough. He just, in the drills, as a off-ball linebacker, you're only going to do so much for your draft stock. It's just not a premium position. It's going to be drafted in the mid rounds there, in the middle rounds of the NFL draft. And I think that's where he'll be. I think Jaylan Ford just needed to confirm for the NFL scouts that he does have a baseline of athleticism, right? That he's not a poor athlete. I don't know if he's a spectacular elite athlete. I don't know if he has those types of measurables, but they just need to see a baseline of his overall athletic profile, which he provided. Jaylan Ford is a guy. He's not going to impress you physically like that. He's going to impress you with what he did on film with his football IQ. And I think he's got an NFL future because of that, because I've seen, guys with a certain baseline of athleticism be able to play in the NFL because they have extremely high football intelligence and football IQ. That's Jaylan Ford. And great work ethic and great football character. That's Jaylan Ford, ladies and gentlemen, no doubt.
Yeah, and he's another one of those guys that being around the teammates and being around his guys to let them know what kind of a leader he was on defense is going to help out his draft stock as well, because you want to see them and they want to know, can he be a guy to communicate at that off-ball linebacker spot? Can he communicate to the rest of the team? Can he read the offense well enough? Can he do all those pieces? How did the other team react to him as a leader? That's one of the things you want to see with an off-ball linebacker that is not going to necessarily be on tape as much.
Yep, agreed. Jet Bush also worked out. Speaking, I mean, give him props too. Speaking of linebackers for Texas, he ran a 4.7, 4.7, which is really good. I mean, it's around the time that Jaylan Ford ran, had a 7.123 cone, which was pretty good. That he had I think a 4.4 in the agility drills, and he was actually asked to work out at fullback, H-back, and some tight end drills too. So that's good for him. At least teams are looking at him as an athlete, a guy that, hey, you can draft that can help you a number of ways. Like, getting back to it, hate to be a broken record, versatility. Yep. Hate to keep throwing it out there, but trust me, it'll help you make an NFL roster. It is one of those really underrated qualities of a great athlete. Also, let's talk about JT Sanders. JT Sanders, I don't know if JT Sanders helped his draft stock at all. I really don't. I don't know if he hurt it, but I'm not sure he helped it. He looked good running the routes because he's a great route runner, and he's great as a passing threat. But he only had reportedly 8 reps on the bench. I think that's. I don't know, that's not impressive for a tight end. You think about upper body strength. You're thinking about a guy that can block potentially defensive ends for you, outside linebackers for you. You'd like to have them with a little bit more upper body strength. 9.6 broad jump. That's not freakish either. You get into the double digits there. 30-inch vertical. That's all right. But that's not good. So he's, I think JT Sanders, like I said, I don't think he hurt himself, but I don't know if he necessarily helped himself. I think JT Sanders is going to impress, much like, we talked about with a guy like Jaylan Ford. Now, you got to go back to the film and you got to be impressed with the way his contested catch ability, his catch radius, his body control, the little subtle nuances of how he plays the tight end position. I think that's what you kind of go back to, because the measurables from the testing, I don't know if that's necessarily going to increase his draft stock overall.
And
Jay Witt also.
And we'll say, when you talk about drafting a tight end and JT Sanders, and you talk about the blocking being such an important part, if you're a tight end 2 on a roster, the difference between a tight end 1 and tight end 2, tight end 1s they want them to block, but they're going to receive sometimes as well. If you're falling into that, you're the backup tight end. Most times you're going to get in are going to be in blocking situations where they may run you out in a big package or something like that. You may not be out there just as a receiver. So for teams that already have a tight end, if you're not necessarily the blocker and the athletic guy that can come out there and help in the run game, they may not want to take you as much as another tight end that they can get another 2 rounds later. That is not going to be a catching threat at all, but that's not what they're looking for.
Christian Jones also participated. Not much. I mean, he's an offensive lineman. He looked good in his drills. I think he ran the 3-cone drill and improved his combine time in the 3-cone drill, but I do think he's a guy that's going to end up getting drafted too. Excuse me. His draft stock has increased. And Jay Witt did not work out again. He did everything at half speed or 60, 70%. Ran some routes, but not full speed. There's going to be another pro day April 14th that Jay Witt's going to participate in. And hopefully he'll be healthy enough to be full speed at that one. He is not participating reportedly in the Big 12 pro day. No Texas player is. They're having their own pro day as well a little bit later on this offseason. Okay, there you go. There are the updates on all the guys who are participating in the Texas Pro Day. We come back. We got the big fat poll of the day coming up from my man Patrick. We'll have some fun with that coming right back here on the Rodcast featuring Patrick Davis. I'm Lifetime Moho and Rod Davis right here on the Horn. Hey, what's up, folks? Lifetime Longhorn Rod Babers here. Let me tell you about our friends over at Callahan's General Store because we know that spring is right around the corner and it's right here upon us. And it's time for you to start making sure that your yard and your lawn are looking top notch. If you want to do that, you need to go, take a visit to my friends over at Callahan's General Store. They have all the resources, they have all the knowledge to help you make sure that your lawn is a golf course ready for the spring. First, you got to start with those pre-emergents, like my man Charlie Wilson told you yesterday. He's the president, CEO, and general manager of Callahan General Store. Love when he comes on. Love when he's just giving you the sweet science, the knowledge behind making your yard the best yard in the neighborhood. You put down the pre-emergents first. You can find that at Callahan's. That's the barricade product from Nitrophos. That'll keep your weeds away. Then after that, the next few weeks, also make sure you get that weed and feed over at my friends over at Callahan's. You'll put that down. That'll further kill some of those other crabgrass and dandelions and all those weeds. They'll get that out of the yard and also allow the good grass to start growing. Mine's already looks pretty good. I haven't even put down the weed and feed yet. That's coming up this weekend, and that'll make it look even better. So my friends at Callahan's, trust me, no matter what your concerns are about making your yard look top notch, no matter what resources you need, they are the place for you. So go visit them as soon as possible. They got the Bermuda seeds in case you got those patches in your yard that, they look a little unseemly. They've been burned out by the hot sun or because of those winter freezes. You had some grass die. My friends at Callahan's can help you out with that too. They got the bags of soil for you, the amendments, the special fertilizers. They got everything. Also, when Easter arrives, and we all know that when Easter arrives, you want to make sure that you're entertaining the kiddos. They also got some great stuff out there at Callahan's. Baby chicks and ducklings and rabbits that are arriving weekly at Callahan's General Store. Plus, you can pick up all your feed and your food and supplies for all your animals, small and large, there at Callahan's. They got it all. They got your Western wear too. Or if you're still in the rodeo move, they got the Western wear there at Callahan's. It's really kind of a one-stop shop for you for a lot of different reasons. Also, don't forget, if you're starting to garden and you got the green thumb, they got all of your peppers and your tomatoes, your melons, and other plants to choose from. Also, they got trees there at Callahan's, your native pecan trees and your fruit trees. You can start planting those and enjoy those for generations to come. Everything you need there is at Callahan's General Store. Go check it out, 501 Bastrop Highway between downtown and airport. Every day is a good day to make it a Callahan's day.
Back here on the back here on the Rodcast. I know what show it is. Back here on the Rodcast on a Thursday morning. We've been talking a lot of pro day. We'll get back to talking about the big Texas basketball matchup, but because it is March Madness, today's new theme Thursday is all about madness, insanity, craziness. That is your theme of the day. All the songs have to do with some sort of insanity and madness since it is March Madness. This is Tears for Fears Mad World. If you did not know, we're going to be going with that all day for our new theme Thursday. It is also time for the big fat poll of the day, which will be NCAA tournament related as well. Text lines open 512-447-3776, 512-447-3776.
Patrick's big fat poll of the day on the Horn.
All right, guys, I have filled out my bracket. I hope you have too. If you've not filled out your bracket yet, you still got a couple hours. You can go to hornfm.com and join us in our bracket pool and play against us. But I do want to ask you, because I don't think I really have any of them going that far this year. Who is your Cinderella for this tournament? Who is your Cinderella this year? Bonus points if you tell us why. Bonus points if you say I think this is the team because they have this player or because they shoot threes well or because they have lockdown defense, which is not usually the reason why you have a Cinderella. Normally it's offense, but it could be. I mean, I had some upsets going in my first couple rounds, but no one really getting to the Sweet 16 that's too big of a Cinderella. So I don't know. I didn't have anybody that I feel over the top good about getting in there, and there's no one that I feel really bad about losing early. I wanted it to be Yale. I really did. But I just can't. It's too hard of a side to get through right there.
Not gonna do it. Yeah.
I can't push them through. So there's teams that you think like, okay, maybe this team could make a run and maybe they could do a little bit, but then the matchups just seem really tough. Someone's gonna do it. They just historically it normally happens. So let us know on the text line 512-447-3776. Who is your Cinderella for this year?
I like that. That's good. That is good. Yeah, it's always one of them. I don't like Cinderella. She's kind of a gold digging skank, but there's always one. There's going to be one this year. And I'll say it might be a lot of upsets this year. I think my man Jerry Hamilton said that. He said, man, I think there's going to be a lot of upsets this year. He's like you, watches a ton of college basketball from all around the country. And he's like, I'm feeling a lot of upsets, which people love. I mean, that's why they call it March Madness. If that is the case, your bracket's probably going to be busted. Unless you are one of those people that chooses a lot of upsets early on in your bracket. And then you get, I go upsets early, chalk late. That's usually how I end up.
Yeah.
Because your Cinderella stories are usually over by, the Elite Eight?
Yeah, by the Elite Eight for the most part. That's a huge run. Like then, and then that's normally fallen into the world where it's like it's a 6 seed or a 7 seed there, which is still they're pulling upsets, but they weren't a Cinderella early. They're a Cinderella late.
And my thing is Cinderella, don't you got to be a double-digit seed?
I think you do. And that's what I'm saying is I think you have to be at least like a 9 or a 10.
I think, you can't. I'm with you. I think you got to be a 9. That's to me the highest seed you can be and be a Cinderella. After that, I'm like, well, you're not a Cinderella. You're 8. You could have been considered a 7.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
No, because I have Gonzaga going a little bit further. They're a 5 seed, but that's not a Cinderella. That's what I'm saying is I don't have them as a Cinderella. I just think there's
great point.
I think there is separation too of some of the top teams right now are just separating themselves, which they can lose, but that's again where you have upsets early where there's not the top teams and the top teams kind of sift themselves out, getting down there. But there's also teams that look, Texas fans will tell you there's not a lot of faith in a couple 2 seeds in Marquette and Tennessee because the coaching at Marquette and Tennessee. Texas fans will tell you that Rick Barnes and Shaka Smart are not going to do great in March.
Yeah, I got some stats about Rick Barnes in March, and I think Action Network threw it out there. So it is something that's well known about Rick Barnes in the month of March. There's no doubt about that. Okay, this is a good conversation. Cinderella, who you think is going to be the Cinderella pick for this NCAA tournament? Who you think is your favorite Cinderella story potentially coming up in the tournament? We'll talk more about that coming up with my man Patrick for the big fat poll of the day. On the other side, we will break down Texas versus Colorado State. Speaking of Cinderellas, there will be no Cinderella story. All right, when it comes to Texas and Colorado State, Texas, if they handle business, Texas will be moving on, and that could be interesting because they could be facing Rick Barnes in Tennessee in that next round. We'll come back. We'll talk about that and also Texas Pro Day, all of that and more right here on the Rodcast featuring Patrick Davis. I'm lifetime Longhorn Rod Babers coming right back on the Horn. Mm-mm. Welcome back to the Rodcast featuring Patrick Davis. I'm lifetime Longhorn Rod Babers. You can reach out to us on the text line 512-447-3776. It also is a new theme Thursday. That's the Idealionaire. My man Patrick Davis always coming up with the great ideas on a new theme Thursday. The theme today is, of course, celebrating March Madness. It's about madness, insanity, going crazy.
Yes.
All the songs will reference madness, insanity, crazy in some way, form, or fashion. And there you go. That is that CeeLo? That's CeeLo?
Gnarls Barkley, but yes, it is
Gnarls
CeeLo.
Barkley.
CeeLo
Yes.
was in Gnarls Barkley, yes.
Yes. See, okay. Yeah, I get that mixed up. See, I sound like one of those O's. There you go. Yeah. But yeah, I will say this about the madness that my man Patrick's talking about. It also relates to his big fat poll of the day question.
Yes.
Because that's why it is madness. Because everybody's bracket ends up being busted by the end of the first round, or the first set, the first day of games usually. Patrick, let the people know what the big fat poll of the day is, which also is a shout out to March Madness, which is upon us.
Your big fat poll of the day today: who is your Cinderella this year? Who is your Cinderella team? Who in your bracket? Which, by the way, you can go join our bracket pool, hornfm.com.
That's right.
Go there, and you can join on in, play with us. But who is your bracket? Who is your Cinderella for this season? Who do you have going in? I know, and I look, I've already got a couple of people that says Texas is, which I appreciate it, but I don't think a 7 seed can really be a Cinderella. I also don't think Texas. No. I don't think that the world is going to get behind Texas. No, I feel like
Texas
a Cinderella.
Can't be a Cinderella.
Yeah,
never.
I don't know.
They be? I don't think Texas can be a Cinderella in any sport, really, guys. Even if they are a lower seed. No, you got a lot of advantages.
I mean,
it just goes to Patrick's point the other day about underdogs.
Yes,
when your case against Tom Brady being an underdog, I kind of feel the same way about Texas being considered. You know what I mean? Texas being considered Cinderella. It's like, nah, Texas can never really be considered Cinderella.
I mean, even if you said Texas had to go to the play-in and they were the 10 seed coming in, you'd still be like, yeah, but it's Texas. No one's like Texas versus Duke. And they're gonna be playing, and they'll still be like, "Oh, we're gonna root for Duke." Come on, man.
Yeah.
I don't know if people. I think you can't be as disliked by a lot of people across the country as Texas is, and still be like, how many? They did that poll years ago of the rivals of all the teams, and how many teams had Texas as their number one rival.
It was like 4 or 5. It was like 5, 6 teams. It was like, no, it's Texas. That's all right. But it's like,
so I don't know if we can be in it. But who is here on the text line? Who is when you're filling out your bracket? Who's the one that you're going to go out on a limb and then just passionately fight for, even though you know it's not fully a great idea? Like that's what I said. I wanted Yale. They got a 7-footer who's a good shooter who I really like. I like that. It's just there's something about that team that I like. But the matchups don't work. But I could fake defend them.
That's true.
Especially like if you're at a bar and you just want to be like, no, this is the best team as they're losing. Now they're coming back. If you want to do that, who's that team? Who's your Cinderella that you believe in this season? Let us know. And extra points, bonus points, I always give you if you want to go in and tell me why you got them coming in. And again, it's got to be an all enough seat because I said I got Gonzaga going further. I've got Creighton doing really well in this tournament. They're a 3 seed. So there's teams that are going, but they're not Cinderellas. Those are just those are upsets later on, but they're not Cinderellas.
They're not Cinderellas. No, it's good. It's a good question because everybody's got one. It all depends. Like I said, your definition, everybody changes. I think at least a 9 seed. If you're higher than that, we got to debate whether you're a true Cinderella story or not. Colorado State would like to be considered one of those Cinderella stories. They'll be trying to put on the glass slipper against Texas at one point. We'll see how that works out. But we'll get into the Texas-Colorado State breakdown after we get to our Horn headlines. My man Patrick's going to hit us up with the Horn headlines here. Then we'll get to discussion about Texas Pro Day. Depending on if we have time, I'll get to some Texas Pro Day updates in Rod's Round today. I have something I want to get into that relates to the NFL and the free agency period we're still in. Technically, it's just quieted down a lot in the NFL. This is actually when teams like the Cowboys started making a lot of moves. But I'll tell you a study that I saw about the highest paid positions and where they're drafted. The average draft position of the 10 highest paid players at each position. And I thought it was really, really telling about the positional value and about draft value. Says a lot about what the NFL perceives as essential positions, non-essential positions, premium positions, non-premium positions. So we'll do that in Raw throughout the day. But first, let's hit the horn headlines, and then we'll discuss and break down the Texas-Colorado State matchup between the men's and on the men's side. We'll get to the women, just so you know, we're not neglecting the ladies. We have a lot of respect for what they've done. They're the 1 seed. They're playing Drexel. It's just going to be a bludgeoning. Then we'll start breaking down. And the ladies actually play tomorrow, but we'll start breaking down the women a little bit as they get deeper into the tournament, because like I said, that first round game is just, it's not going to be interesting at all. I don't expect it to be that competitive for that long. And if it is, Drexel will be trying to be one of those Cinderella stories. And hopefully Texas women will put the kibosh on that. But before we talk any Texas hoops, let's hear from my man Patrick with the Horn headlines.
All right, your Horn headlines brought to you by Top Gun Rentals and Lawn Equipment. Texas baseball took care of business yesterday, beating Air Force 12-3 behind the bats of Max Ballou and Will Gasparino. Charlie Hurley gets his second win of the season, pitching 5 4-hit innings, only allowing 2 earned runs. Texas gets a day off before facing Baylor over the weekend. Texas softball got a run rule 10-0 win over number 17 ranked Florida State in just 6 innings, with Mac Morgan picking up her 7th win of the season. Reese Atwood led the way with 4 RBIs off her home run and triple in the game. They start a series with UCF on Friday. The NCAA tournament field of 64 is set and ready for roughly 12 hours of action both today and tomorrow. Last night, Grambling edged out Montana State 88-81 in overtime for the opportunity to take on Purdue, and Colorado overcame a slow start to knock off Boise State 60-53, earning a first-round matchup against Florida. Tournament action kicks off this morning at 11:15 with Michigan State versus Mississippi State. The Texas Longhorns tip off at 5:50 against 10-seed Colorado State. And finally, the Dodgers and Padres are in action once again this morning in Seoul, South Korea, as the Padres holding on to a 10-8 lead in the top of the 6th inning. Shohei Ohtani is in the lineup after the Dodgers reportedly fired his longtime friend and interpreter after allegations of a massive theft related to illegal gambling. And that is your Horn headline.
All right, thank you, Patrick, for the Horn headlines. Let's start talking about this Texas-Colorado State matchup a little bit. It's got a lot of layers, actually, more layers than I thought. I was doing some research about the roster and some of the standouts for Colorado State. Isaiah Stevens is the name you want to know. He's their top guard, their leading scorer. Also leads the team in assists, I believe, 16 points per game, almost 7 assists per game. He's a 5th-year senior. He's actually from Texas. He's from Dallas. He went to Allen, and we know Max Asmus is also from Dallas. He went to Rockwall. Those high schools are like 20 minutes away. They know each other. They've known each other for a while, apparently, and I don't know if they're good friends, but they're friends. And they played each other also in 2022 when Max Asmus was at Oral Roberts. And Stevens was at Colorado State, and they played in the tournament. Now Colorado State beat them 109-80, I believe it was. They played each other, and Stevens had 13 points and 6 assists in that game in the matchup, and Max Asmus scored 20, but they end up losing. So there's a little background here between these two. I didn't realize that, actually.
There's a little bit.
That was
and I mean, it's a different world now for Max Asmus being at Texas versus Oral Roberts,
yes,
where there is other players on the team that they have to focus on and they have to push. But Max Asmus is that main concern for Colorado State for guards, where you're going to spend most of your effort trying to make sure Max Asmus, you're going to try and ball deny him. You're going to try and get the ball out of his hands. You don't want him to be able to get open shots and control the offense. So if he goes off, Texas is really good if him and Dessou both play well. If both of them play well, it's going to be they're a hard team to beat. The issue has been, there's been games where either Dylan Dessou has gotten in foul trouble, or they've gone up against a bigger team that maybe gives Dylan Dessou a little bit more trouble, or Max Asmus has not been able to get it going offensively. It's taken out of the game. Those are the games you have to worry about a little bit more, because once those two guys get going, then it opens up that they're spending so many resources on guarding both of them. that allows IT Horton, Tyrese Hunter, Kendall Weaver, Dylan Mitchell, all those guys, Caden Shedrick, all to get going a little bit more. And when those guys get going, it becomes easier. Brock Cunningham is another one of those X-Factor guys. How do they referee Brock Cunningham in this game? I'm going to throw that out there. Is Brock Cunningham in the Big 12 has a really bad reputation. And every Big 12 official knows Brock Cunningham, and he's not going to get the benefit of the doubt. If Brock Cunningham breathes wrong on somebody, they're going to be looking to the monitors to figure out if it's a flagrant 3. They don't. They're going to go hard at Brock Cunningham, and they have all season long. You thought he may get some benefit of the doubt because of his seniority. They didn't care. They're saying he's a dirty player. They're going to push on him. The question is, are they going to do that in the tournament with officials that are going to know his reputation but maybe don't know him as well? Will they give him the benefit of the doubt? And does he hit threes? When Brock Cunningham hits threes, it again opens up the world for Dylan Dessou inside, having a guy who can stretch the floor like that. I know Colorado State in this matchup, a lot of people are putting a lot of, because I had not watched Colorado State before this matchup. I'd watched Virginia. I had not watched Colorado State. And, I think people were putting in, I've gone back and looked up more of their stuff, watched some more highlights from games. I think, people are putting a lot of praise that they shut down Virginia. That wasn't necessarily the case. Virginia just played really, really bad offense. They're a decent defensive team. They like to play they try and play physical because they're shorter. They have to play physical in the post, but they're 78th in the country in field goal defense. So that's basically their best defensive stat is 78th in the country, which is not bad, but it's also not something that you're going to look at and say, wow, what a great defensive team. There's probably 30 to 40 better teams in the bracket right now than they are defensively. So it's not something that you can look at and say this is a elite defense. They don't guard the 3 very well, and they do not shoot the 3 well at all. They're a really poor 3-point shooting team for Colorado State. So it comes down to, for Texas, can you not get in your own head? Can you not come out and think this is an easy win? Can you realize that you have given away too many games this season and come out with the energy and intensity? Because if you do that, this is a game that you can easily win. This is a game that you should be able to handle. You should be able to hold them to under 5 offensive rebounds in the game. You should be able to. Now, that's a hard number, but you should. Colorado State hasn't been a great turnover team, or has not been a bad turnover team all year. They've been pretty good at holding on to the basketball. They had 10 turnovers against Virginia, who's a good defensive team. Can you force the turnovers? Can you get out of possessions by making them make bad passes, making them try and make a throw a needle through the eye? Can you do those types of things? I don't know if it's a matchup that really for Texas fans is one of the most frustrating ones, because we've seen Texas play down to their teams too often this season and not utilize their athleticism, not utilize their strengths against them, and just try and match up against a Colorado State team, allow Colorado State to shoot 50% in the game because you're not going out there and playing with a intensity that you need to play with. Hopefully that is not going to be the case. And the other part is, can you play 40 minutes? If you're Texas, can you play 40 minutes? You haven't played 40 minutes pretty much the entire season. And Colorado State's not going to die. They're not going to go away. This means a lot to them. I know that Texas went to the Elite 8 last year, so some of these guys coming back, it may not be there, but that's why I'm looking at Max Abmas. This is supposed to be his run. This is why he came to Texas, for the opportunity to compete at this level. He's not going to go up against Big 12 defenses right now. They'll try and shut him down, but he should be able to score against the Colorado State. As you mentioned, he's been in this matchup before. He knows what he can do against it. He's not playing against the top school right now. That'll be, if they win, then yeah, you've got to go against Tennessee, but you can't think about that.
Yeah, and that matchup that I referred to earlier was in the regular season. Sorry, that was non-con. That was not in the tournament. If I implied that it was in the tournament, but that 2022 season, where I think it was 21-22 for Oral Roberts and Max Abmas, when they made that tournament run that season, in the regular season, the non-con, they played against Colorado State early on. So that's when Max Abmas did actually have some experience playing against Isaiah Stevens, who is a 5th-year senior for Colorado State, and he is their leading scorer. And I assume at times those guys might end up being matched up. And like I said, they're both from the Dallas area, and the reports are they're friends.
Yeah,
I don't know if they're good friends, but they're friends. So you have that element too. Also, this will be the 5th game for Colorado State in the last 7 days. They've played a lot of games. Texas will be a fresher team, a much fresher team than Colorado State. That has to matter when you have the overall athletic advantage. You have better athletes overall. You would even argue that they are just a better basketball team.
Yeah.
They have better players too, and you're going to have the rest advantage. Now, some people go into the rest and the rust thing. How much of an advantage is that to Texas? I mean, Colorado State's 210th in bench minutes. So they don't get a ton from their bench either. Fatigue, is that something that could be a huge factor for Texas late in this game, especially start to wear out Colorado State team that wants to run a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, if you want to run too, if you want to get down the court, if you want to get fast breaks with Tyrese Hunter and Dylan Mitchell that they've done it a few times this season, if you want to break out and get those rebounds and have guys break down the court, if you want to attack the paint and make them chase you, if you want to move without the basketball, you can wear this team down. The rest versus rust is going to be at the beginning. But again, this is not a Colorado State team that shoots particularly well. And that's kind of where you worry about a team coming out of playing a lot, is that their shots start to fall a lot. They're just not a great three-point shooting team. So if they do hit threes, you have to start worrying. You got to start playing some better defense because they just haven't played well. They haven't shot threes all season. But if you can guard the three well enough, make them go in and try and take contested shots, give a little physicality back to them if they're giving it to you, see the way the refs are calling the game, and if they're allowing them to play with a little physicality, you just play it back up. Go straight up and down, but you have this is a place where going straight up and down, you're not giving up height except for really at one position that you're going to give up enough height that's going to be an issue, and that's basically their third guard is probably going to be a couple inches taller. But other than that, you should be able to just go straight up and down and get away with it for a lot of this game. I get that. I'm happy that Texas got the rest. They are a little banged up. I know, Dylan Dessou is just kind of at the end of the season. We know he had that knee sprain and then coming back. Mm-hmm. Max Asmus didn't look great in some games late in the season. And, Brock Cunningham has the hand injury, which he still had the brace on at the when they were doing the selection Sunday. So he'll probably still have the brace on with, I believe it looks like a sprained thumb. So there's going to be some small issues, but yeah, getting a little bit more rest. Caden Shedrick getting some more rest is always a good thing. They've been practicing, I'm sure, practicing hard as well. But to see if they can come out here and use that to their advantage to try and run on them, to try and get them tired, to try and come out and start off well, because we talk about that 40 minutes. They're going to be playing on pure adrenaline in the second half. Colorado State will. Yeah. Can you be able to withstand a run that they'll put together in that second half and pull back away in the last minutes if you let them run their adrenaline out by getting a good lead and making them have to use everything they can to fight back into it? If you keep it close, you don't really exploit that ability as much as you can if you get a nice 10-point lead at some point.
Yeah, no doubt. It's a good point. I mean, that's, like I said, it looks like there are a lot of things right now working in Texas' favor. Not only the rest factor too, but you brought up the advantage that Texas will have in the post down low with more athletic big men. I will say Colorado State is ninth in the nation in 2-point field goal percentage. So they rely on a lot of high percentage buckets at the basket. Texas will have athletic bigs, Dylan Dessou, Caden Shedrick, Dylan Mitchell, that can, obviously deter a lot of those shots at the basket. So that could be something that works in Texas' favor too. And this team, as we talked about earlier, they're a poor rebounding team. They're 302nd in the nation in rebounding. Texas having a big advantage there with some of their big men. That should also be something working in Texas' favor. If Texas execute, like you said, effort, but then execution. If you get effort and execution from Texas, they'll win this game, and they can win it comfortably. I'll say that. I don't know if it will be a blowout or anything, but they should win it comfortably. But there's a reason they're only a 2.5-point favorite. And here's the gambling stat for you: Texas 7-14 against the spread when favored by at least 2.5 points this season. That's not great.
No, they've not been great against the spread all season. They haven't been great all season. But this again, I mean, that's just the reality of it. They haven't been great all season.
They haven't been great all season.
I mean, they've been good at points, but they haven't been great at all season. And I mean, and then you also have to worry about this there's a good chance that Colorado State's going to try and let you shoot some threes early, especially Tyrese Hunter, especially IT Horton. Let them shoot threes early. They'll try and probably come out on Dessou a little bit more. They'll come out on Max Asmus more. But on Tyrese Hunter, if he hits threes early, good on him. But if he doesn't, drive the paint. Do not take the threes. They're giving them to you. Don't take the threes. IT Horton was doing a good job at the end of the season taking mid-range. If they give you that 3, pump fake it, take 2 steps in and take the 2 because it's just a higher percentage shot for IT Horton right now. Take those points. Don't let them get the advantage where you don't score and have that 4, 5, 6 minute break a stretch where you don't score for Texas. That's going to be a problem because Colorado State, that's how they slowly will build up that lead. And if they hit some shots, they get inside, they start to build it up. That crowd will turn on Texas very quickly. They're in Charlotte, North Carolina. There's not a Texas fans, and there's not as many Texas fans going to be there. There'll be Texas fans, but this is how it works in any tournament you're in, Texas. We talked earlier about Cinderella. Your section will cheer for Texas. The entire rest of the building will cheer for everybody. We'll cheer for the other team.
Cheer for Cinderella. They'll cheer for Cinderella too.
So you just have
to like this story. You're right.
You have to understand that, when you start to let them get into the game, when you start to let them push you like that, you're not getting any sympathy, and it can be frustrating when it's supposed to be a neutral site.
Yeah, it's a neutral site, and then it starts feeling like a road game.
Exactly.
You're like, what the hell? I thought it's because they're rooting against you. That's a great point there, Patrick. Also, watch out for Nick Clifford. He's another guard for Colorado State. Had 17 points, 10 rebounds, and 6 assists versus Virginia. I mean, he lit them up because Isaiah Stevens didn't have a good game versus Virginia. He only had, I think, 5 points.
Yeah.
Something like that in 30-something minutes. He didn't have a good game, but this guy, Nick Clifford, lit it up. He's their leading rebounder, but he had 17 points, 10 rebounds, 6 assists. So he was he shoots 38% from three-point range. That's the guy you don't want to leave open out there. All right, we'll talk some more Texas basketball coming up a little bit later on the show. We'll push Rod's Rant to the next segment. We'll get into Rod's Rant, and we'll hit a couple of NFL news notes and nuggets after that. So we'll get into some NFL talk coming up in Rod's Rant on the other side. This is the Rodcast featuring Patrick Davis. I'm lifetime Longhorn Rod Babers, coming right back on the Horn. Hey, what's up, folks? Lifetime Longhorn Rod Babers here. Aside from the traffic, which I'll admit none of us really like here in Austin, the city is a fantastic place to live, right? That's why people keep moving here, making the traffic even worse. But it's got so much to offer: great music, great food, great people, a great aesthetic appeal, all the unique, iconic landmarks around town that make Austin so unique. And what you may not know about these iconic landmarks is that a lot of them were built and constructed by the hands and the skilled craftsmanship of Ironworkers Local 482, like the Pennybacker Bridge and DKR Stadium. The folks at Ironworkers Local 482 right now are building something else, right? They got another big project happening right here in Central Texas, and they're hiring over 3,000 people for this project. And you can be one of these lucky folks. They're offering competitive wages, competitive benefits, and a pension plan. They even offer training for unskilled labor through their apprenticeship program. Now, if you become a member of Ironworkers Local 482 right now, if you're looking for an employment opportunity or a refreshing career change, it would be an interesting place to think about changing careers, because you don't even have the skills. They'll teach you the skills. They have numerous opportunities right now. You can go over to their website and go look at all of them, but the competitive wages and competitive benefits and a pension plan, trust me, folks, it is a great opportunity right now at Ironworkers Local Union 482. They don't go to the office. They're the ones who actually build the office. So if you're thinking about a career change, if you're thinking about maybe you want a new challenge, maybe you want something new, a change of scenery, think about Ironworkers Local Union 482 and take pride in the type of teamwork and craftsmanship that helps shape the future of our great city. Go online today and inquire about their opportunities at ironworkers482.org. That's ironworkers482.org. All right, welcome back to the Rodcast. I want to get into some NFL discussion here. A couple of NFL topics that I want to dive into, but first I want to hit up this recent study. There's a study done about the 10 highest paid players at every position in the NFL, and it looked at their average draft position, where those guys were drafted per position. And I thought it was pretty interesting. I got the data from last year and from this year, the current one, and there still could be some moves made. But since we are kind of midway through kind of the frenzy of free agency, we're pretty much done with all the big time, big dollar deals. They put together another 2024 version of this average draft round of the 10 highest paid players per position. And essentially, if there's, and this is kind of what determines what a premium position, or at least it shows you the NFL's definition of what a premium position is. I've been saying for a while, I believe interior defensive line is trending toward being a premium position. Last year, you look at the 12 highest paid players on defense, half of them were interior defensive linemen. If you look at the 12 highest paid players in guaranteed salary on defense, half of them were interior defensive linemen, right? It's one of those positions right now. I think with the way the NFL wants to play defense, they want to win the numbers advantage in the passing game, play with two deep safeties. If you're going to do that, you play with a lighter box. That means they have more blockers than you have defenders in the box. If you're going to do that, then you need bigger humans, all right, who can either demand a double team. All right, they demand a double team that flips the numbers advantage back in your favor. All right, because it takes two of theirs to block your one. Or you have human beings who are so massive, they're so gargantuan in size, right, that guys like T'Vondre Sweat, that they can clog up multiple gaps with just their body and their mass alone. They basically, and that's why I think T'Vondre Sweat is telling me, if somebody's advising him on how to present himself now, they're probably saying, "No, man, you're good. Don't try to slim down and don't try to become the 350, 340 something defensive tackle in the NFL, because the way the NFL is trending, they need one or the other. They need somebody so disruptive they demand a double team. That's Byron Murphy. Or you need somebody so massive they demand a double team, or who can clog up multiple gaps with just their mass and size alone. That's T'Vondre Sweat. So my case is that I think interior defensive linemen are actually becoming a premium position. Will it stay that way? No, but with the current climate right now in the NFL and the ecosystem of the NFL and the way they want to play defense, those guys you can't play modern defense without one of those rock of Gibraltars right there in the middle of your defense that flips that numbers advantage back in your favor, or allows you to play with a lighter box. So if you look at the average draft position of the 10 highest paid defensive tackles in the NFL, last season it was the highest of any position. If you wanted a top 10 defensive tackle in terms of what they're paid, their average draft position is 1.3. So in the first round, and that is the best, or at least the top average draft position of any position in the NFL, of the top 10 highest paid at their position. All right. So if you want a top 10 D tackle, you better draft them in the first round. If you want one of those types of guys, it's going to be a first round pick. Quarterback was among this group. Quarterback in 2023, it was third. Right tackle actually was next at 1.5. Then quarterback at 1.6. Then your left tackle tied with quarterback at 1.6. This is last season. 1.6. Then your edge rusher. So you had three positions that had the top 10 highest paid players at that position. Quarterback, left tackle, edge, all had their average draft position be the same, 1.6. And your right tackle is 1.5. So those are considered premium positions. And then you look at cornerback, the 10 highest paid cornerbacks and their draft position was it was basically kind of right at the second round. It's 2.0 here, along with safety and then offensive guard. So this is last season, right? So if you look at this season and the way things are trending, quarterback, if you want a top 10 quarterback, average draft position, 1.4, interior defensive line and edge at 1.5. Still interior defensive line is there, still making the big bucks. And your left tackles, their average draft round drops to, in terms of top 10 highest paid guys, to 2.0. Right tackles is 2.1, along with your offensive guards. and your top running backs in 2024 and your top safeties. Running backs had a little bit of they had an increase in value this offseason too. And so it kind of pushes back actually your average draft round, the 10 highest paid cornerbacks and wide receivers. Even though they're premium positions, it does show you can get high quality cornerback play and wide receiver play in the second round. Because you look at the average draft round, the 10 highest paid players per position, wide receiver and tight end in 2024, wide receiver and cornerback, in 2024, you're at 2.2 and you're at 2.5, which means in the second round, if you play it right in the right draft, you can find quality wide receivers and quality corners in the second round. What's Trevon Diggs drafted? When Trevon Diggs a second round corner, you can find him late. You just got to know what the hell you're doing.
Yeah.
And a lot of teams don't know what the hell they're doing.
Yeah. That's
what it comes down to.
that always is the case, isn't it?
Yeah. That's basically what it comes down to. So there you go in terms of premium positions. Yeah, because I want to say Trevon Diggs was a second round pick. But either way, like I said, my point is you can find what is a L'Jarius Sneed? Isn't he's considered one of the top corners in the NFL. Was he a fourth round pick for the Kansas City Chiefs, something like that? I mean, you can. And I wouldn't. I think you could build a secondary pretty much with second to fourth round picks. If you fall after that, it becomes a little bit tougher. I think Deron Bland was like a fifth round pick or something like that. It becomes a little bit tougher, but you can find quality talent at the skill positions in the second through the fourth round in the NFL. The NFL is littered with them. So there you go. A little breakdown of premium positions in the NFL. I want to talk some Cowboys, but I want to play the Dak Prescott's brother's comments, and I want to make sure we got them clean cut first because he's dropping some bombs in them.
I cleaned it up for you.
Did you already clean it up?
Yeah.
Man, Patrick, you're amazing. Because I sent that to you this morning. I was like, oh, because I found it. I was like, man, okay, Tad. I believe his name is Tad Prescott. Okay, so we can play this thing because Patrick is a true professional and the real MVP here on the show. So he's already got the clip edited. This is Tad Prescott talking about his brother Dak Prescott's status with the Cowboys situation. Here is Tad Prescott's take on it. Here it is.
He truly wants to be a Cowboy for life. Like, I'm not joking when I say that boy grew up worshiping the Dallas Cowboys. Him being drafted by them, whether it was, pick number one or pick, Mr. Irrelevant, that was his dream. And to be their starting quarterback, their face, their franchise, that's something I know he wants to continue to do. How I feel about it, again, all aside, is truly how he feels about it. I support him no matter where he wants to be, no matter what he wants to do. I've made the comments on Twitter that I want him out of Dallas. Again, that has been more so to the fans that constantly write me or DM me that your brother ain't your brother will never win, your brother's nothing. So I'm like, well, cool, get him out of Dallas so you can see what this franchise will look like without 12 games of the season, without a guy that constantly puts y'all in position on the playoffs. Could he have a better playoff record? He'll tell you himself he could. But still, like I said, over the last 3 seasons, this guy has 36 wins in the regular season. So, and you just want to get rid of
him. All right, there you go. So Tad speak. Something tells, because I don't know if I've ever heard him on an actual interview. I think usually he makes comments via social media. I'm not sure if I've ever heard him doing an interview. Something tells me he got the okay from bro to do that, to actually speak out. He even stated, usually I'm on social media saying what I want to say, but for him to speak out. So I think that is a message from the Prescott camp, if you will. Do you think that's what it is?
I do, but I don't think it's the Cowboys. I think it's the Cowboys.
No, I think it's from the Prescott camp. It's from Dak camp.
No, but I'm saying it's not for the Cowboys. He's not sending it to the Cowboys.
Oh, good point. Yes,
he's sending it to the fans because the Cowboys are currently sending out the message. Dak Prescott wants to make 10 times the most any quarterback's ever made in the history of man. He is the reason why we can't sign anybody. Dak Prescott won't take a team-friendly deal. So that's the Cowboys method.
Court of public opinion.
Yes. And so he's trying to say, well, he wants to be here, but they're not playing ball. Unfortunately, I don't know if Tad Prescott is the guy to send that message out. I would have said, I may have sent a different messenger.
That's a good point, because that's why I think it's definitely from Dak and Dak's camp, because he even says, now I know I've said before on social media that I'd like Dak to leave the Cowboys, but now I'm telling you he wants to be a Cowboy. So yes, I agree with you 100%. You are right. It is him sending a message to the fans. Hey, Dak Prescott wants to be a Dallas Cowboy. Don't listen to any of that nonsense that I want to play out in my contract year, and then I want to hit free agency so I can go play somewhere else. That is not the case at all. So yeah, it's interesting. So now we're going to start sending these little cryptic messages back and forth via, via others and those who are close to the situation. I wonder what the Cowboys counter is going to be.
Well, we know what
Cowboys message has been clear.
We know what the Cowboys message is. Well, he says he wants to be one, but we're in those negotiations and we're talking, but you have to do what's right for the Cowboys and their fans. And Dak, it's got to be that. And the reality is, I know fans of every team want the guy to sign the team-friendly deal. The reality of what a team-friendly deal is really not that much of a money difference between team-friendly and what the player deserves. Very few great players, and I know Dak doesn't vote, but Dak was second in MVP voting when we talk about players. Very few top players. I'll say top. I won't say great because that'll piss more people off. Say top players are going to be guys that are going to take, $25, $50, $100 million less. Like, why would you do that? Why on earth would you say I'll risk my family's life, my kids' lives, my kids, all those are, the chance to really have wealth to change my family's destiny from here on out? I'll give that all up for a team that the second I get hurt will try and get out of my contract and cut me.
Yeah, it's stupid.
You just have to realize it is a business at the end of it. And so you can say team friendly usually means I'll restructure, which Dak has done a bunch of times. Dak did make a slight concession on his deal. He made something where they converted money and they opened up $5 million or more cap. He did do that for them already. So I think Dak's willing to talk to him and work with him. But yeah, this seems like a message to the fans to say, I want to be here. They're creating the narrative that I won't re-sign and I want to go to free agency. That's not my narrative. That's their narrative. But in the reality, it probably is someone in the middle for both of them, that the Cowboys would like to pay him as about the 10th highest paid quarterback, and Dak wants to be top 3.
Yeah, it ain't gonna be 10.
No, I know, and that's
he's definitely
you got to be somewhere in the middle.
Is probably the compromise.
I think that's where you need to be. Yeah, top 5.
Yeah, top 5 is probably the compromise. But we'll see. I mean, it's Dak's best year ever. So when you second team All Pro and you right when you finish second MVP voting, that's not usually when you want to give a discount. That's when you want to cash in.
Yeah, and that's the other narrative we'll hear. The Cowboys will keep putting out Dak Prescott wasn't able to score enough points in the Green Bay game, and then Dak Prescott's camping to go, well, I didn't allow 40.
Very true.
Both those
they got a new DC.
Yep.
So that if you want to complain about that, they got a new DC. But I'm with you on that. That the narratives obviously are going to shift back and forth. All right, we come back. We'll get into what the facts, what the stats of the day. We'll do that on the other side right here on the Rodcast featuring Patrick Davis on Lifetime Local and Rod Babers. Coming right back on the horn. All right, welcome back to the Rodcast. Time for what the facts, what the stats. One of the facts that I want to get into. I always throw out some NBA stuff when we get a chance. The NBA leaders in clutch winning percentage right now. Shout out to, and I got this from Grant Afsat, the Mavs at 71%. Actually have are the NBA leaders in clutch winning percentage. Just throwing it out there.
That's not surprising.
Waiting on the Mavs to make a move.
That's not huge.
It's not because of Kyrie and Luka.
Yeah, I mean, you have two of the best clutch players in the NBA.
Yeah, Kyrie just hit one of them freaky clutch shots a couple of games
ago.
Yeah,
a left-handed hook shot from 20 feet over the two-time reigning MVP.
Yeah, that's wild.
That's I mean, yeah. And then apparently there was somebody who said that they'd asked Kyrie what skill he was still working on, since he has so many skills that he can do. And he said, I'm still working on my left-handed hook shot.
He said that after the game?
No, he said that like apparently like a year ago.
Wow.
But
really?
That was what somebody, but yeah, it's basically they were asking him about, like, how do you practice all this? Like, how do you have all of these different things in your bag? And he's like, well, I don't have to practice them. I've just always been able to do this. And he's like, I just kind of practice different things. But yeah, he's another kind of beast.
His skill. I mean, I won't say Kevin Durant said some. I'm paraphrasing. I might get the quote wrong. That he's one of the most skilled players in the history of the NBA. Like, yeah, on the top, just skill, just overall.
Yeah,
if you skill of the handles and the touch, everything. Like you said, left-handed hook shots. Who the hell is practicing? Like Kobe would practice that, I guess. But anybody else, you don't even dare attempt stuff like that because you got no chance.
No, you don't sky hook as a guard with your offhand very often. But yeah, no, he did it over Jokic because he knew he could get a step or two on him. And that's basically the only shot he can do, because if he tries to turn and shoot, Jokic catches it back up. So he has to be able to put something up like that. If he tries to get to the rim, then Jokic can cut him off and go back in. So he doesn't really have a lot of options on that play. So that's what he does, but he hits it. He is one of those guys. And so far, his Mavs run has been relatively drama-free.
Yeah, no, he has not been. No, you're right about that. That's a great point. And he has not been a part of any drama with the Mavs that I can think of.
And that's, that's been his thing. Like, if you take out the drama, the fact that he was kind of put into LeBron's shadow early on, and that didn't necessarily go over great with him, and then the Boston run that went terribly. He didn't fit in the culture there, and he didn't fit in with the city. And just, it's kind of been through a couple places. Then the Nets, and we know that whole debacle at the Nets. But from that, he's come out and been, done everything he's supposed to be doing. He's got the contract he wanted, and he's been happy with it so far. Now we'll see going down the road if they are in the play-in, they don't make it into, they don't get up into that seeding where they want to be, which I still think they can, because again, the end of their schedule is pretty light for them. It's a little bit easier. Then if they don't get in there, if they get knocked out early in the playoffs, a first or second round exit, that's when you start to see a little bit more of panic mode, because everybody's worried that Luka is eventually just going to walk out and say, I'm done. And everybody's worried that Kyrie's going to walk out and say, I'm done, and you're not going to get value for them. But as of right now, they're winning games. They're the type of matchup that no team wants to play against, because if you have the best perimeter defender in the game, it's not likely you have a second best perimeter defender, and you can only guard one of them at a time.
Great point. Yeah, I agree with you. They are kind of a nightmare scenario late in the playoffs, when they may be trending in the right direction late in the season, and you catch them as a 4 or 5 seed or something like that. Yeah, that ain't no easy win.
They're both guys who could consistently. They're both guys who can put up triple doubles. They're both guys, like, they can both just do all of those things. They don't have if they had one more, like if they had the real third guy, they'd be really, really dangerous. But they just don't necessarily have that third guy. But those two still scare a lot of people.
Yeah, they should. All right, there you go. There's some what the facts, what the stats coming up. We'll come back. We'll get into the Texas Pro Day. Also, there's news about the 2025 Texas football schedule that we got to get into as well. We'll dive into that, and we'll talk about all of the news, notes, and nuggets from the Texas Pro Day. Well represented there, because the NFL came out in mass to see these Longhorns showcase their skills. We'll talk about that and more right here on the Rodcast, featuring Patrick Davis. I'm lifetime Longhorn Rod Davis, coming right back on the Horn. Welcome back to the Rodcast. It is a new theme Thursday edition of the Rodcast. That's when the Idealionaire, my man Patrick Davis, comes up with a new theme to entertain us. The theme for today is all about March Madness. It is a tribute to March Madness, which we are officially in right now. Longhorn men will be in action tonight, facing Colorado State. We'll get back to previewing that matchup. But in honor of March Madness, all the songs today will reference madness, we'll reference insanity, being crazy. It's all about the shout out to March Madness. So thank you to my man Patrick for the new theme Thursday. We appreciate that each and every time with the musically themed days of the week. You can be a part of the show on the text line 512-447-3776. We'll break down Texas Pro Day here and discuss it in detail. It was a magnificent showing by Texas, and it was one that all the NFL teams had to be there in some form or fashion. They were represented by a scout, a head coach, or an executive, or a GM in some situations as well. So the NFL actually was there for the first time, I believe, in like 10 years. There were head coaches on the 4 Acres for the Texas Pro Day. So we'll talk about that and discuss that in, like I said, in great detail. We'll have your horn headlines, and we'll do that before we get into the Texas Pro Day discussion. My man Patrick, since he is in the March Madness mood, the big fat poll of the day also is about March Madness and what some people think is really the reason for the madness, the Cinderella stories in the March Madness, which we all love. Well, not all of us, but most of us love.
Yeah, well, you love it unless you're a victim of the Cinderella.
Does it busted your bracket? Then you're like, damn, that Cinderella. Yeah. Why didn't I pick that Cinderella?
All the people that wanted Prince Charming.
Yeah, there you go. Hey, that's a great point. Yeah, I think most of my bracket is pretty chalky. So I'm not that into the Cinderella story, but I like your question. It's a good one. It makes you think, makes you ponder.
Yeah, I think there's some. I would say probably over. I mean, you can go over in a bracket where NC State, a lot of people like them as an underdog. Colorado is a favorite right now. People are a big fan of Colorado. No one has any faith in Kansas to get anything done because of the injury. So Samford may get through a round or two because McCullough is out for the tournament for Kansas. There's some of those teams. I said earlier, I'm a fan of Yale. It's just going to be hard to beat Auburn. They're a really good basketball team. Grand Canyon, that's a favorite of a lot of people this season. Canyon.
Yeah. So you wonder your favorite Cinderella story.
Yeah, who's on your bracket? Yeah, who's in your bracket pushing? We've got a lot of people that are not. They're going chalk. They're saying, a lot of people saying, look, I can't. I don't have a Cinderella. It's hard. It's hard to pick the one out. That's the challenge of it. But if someone's got one, New Mexico's getting some love too. New Mexico is another team.
Okay. Yeah. Colorado State's probably getting some love, honestly.
I don't think anybody has Colorado State beating Tennessee.
No, I agree with you on that.
I think there's a lot of people picking them to beat Texas. But again, it's the Cinderellas. I think there's a lot of people that have some upsets in round 1, but then in round 2, you'll see the better team. So by the time you get to the Sweet 16, Elite 8, you should be pretty much out of the Cinderella market by that point.
Should get back to the chalk.
Yes.
No, I agree with you on that. That's a really good point too. Usually that's how it is for me. If I'm going to pick Cinderella stories or pick upsets, I do it in the first round or early on and later on in my bracket. Probably once I get to the Elite 8, it's going to be pretty chalky. That's just usually how I operate. But we'll get back to that conversation because it's a good one. Who is your favorite Cinderella of this tournament? Who are you predicting? Who is in your bracket right now as the Cinderella that advances the furthest in your bracket? We want to know that. So hit us up on the text line 512-447-3776. That is the number 2 for the text line for the big fat poll of the day for my man Patrick. All right, Patrick's going to hit us up with the horn headlines. Then we'll come right back and talk about the Texas Pro Day. So Patrick, please do us the service of hitting us up with the horn headlines for the day.
All right, your horn headlines brought to you by Top Gun Rentals and Lawn Equipment. Texas baseball took care of business yesterday, beating Air Force 12-3 behind the bats of Max Ballou, and Will Gasparino. Charlie Hurley gets his second win of the season, pitching 5 4-hit innings and allowing 2 earned runs. Texas gets a day off before facing Baylor this weekend. Texas softball got a run rule 10-0 win over number 17 ranked Florida State in just 6 innings, with Mag Morgan picking up her 7th win of the season. Reese Atwood led the way with 4 RBIs off her home run and triple in the game. They start a series with UCF on Friday. The NCAA tournament field of 64 is set, and ready for roughly 12 hours of action both today and tomorrow. Last night, Grambling edged out Montana State 88-81 in overtime for the opportunity to take on Purdue, and Colorado overcame a slow start to knock off Boise State 60-53, earning a first-round matchup against Florida. Tournament action kicks off this morning at 11:15 with Michigan State versus Mississippi State, and the Longhorns tip off at 5:50 against the 10-seed Colorado State. Finally, the Dodgers and Padres are in action once again this morning in Seoul, South Korea, as the Padres are still up 12-9 in the top of the 8th inning in that game. Shohei Ohtani is in the lineup after the Dodgers reportedly fired his longtime friend and interpreter after allegations of a massive theft related to illegal gambling. And that is your Horn headlines. And for the people on the text line who keep asking about the Longhorns, they will never be a Cinderella. Even if they were a 16 seed, the Longhorns would not be a Cinderella, because too many people across the country are anti-Longhorns. The horns down in games that they're not even playing in. Just the reality of it. And you know, as much as people will say as bad as they were this season, that was on their own expectations, not in the reality of being bad. They're still a 7 seed in the tournament. That is more Texas fans expecting this to be a team to improve over an Elite 8 run last year, which maybe was lofty expectations. And they did not look like the same team as last year, but they're definitely not in the Cinderella ballpark at a 7 seed.
Nope, can't do it. Texas will never be a Cinderella. Sorry, guys. Just can't. You can't have it both ways. You can't have all the resources and be the brand as big as Texas is and still claim Cinderella status. It's much like the argument, the debate we were having yesterday about Tom Brady as an underdog. And I gave it to my man Patrick, who said Tom Brady can't be an underdog. Can't do it. Went to Michigan, did get drafted, had some advantages. And you have some advantages like that. Usually that kind of keeps you from being a true underdog. So I thought it was a very valid point. Same thing with Texas. Texas has way too many advantages to ever be a Cinderella. Can't do it. Won't do it. All right. Let's talk about some of these guys, maybe some Cinderella stories if they end up going undrafted into the NFL and making a career out of it. But Texas had their pro day yesterday, and it was probably the most successful pro day Texas had in a decade plus. I mean, you got to go back to, I don't know, maybe like 2008, 2009 until Texas, and just last time Texas had a pro day that was considered this successful, this highly attended by Longhorn NFL scouts, by, the coaches and by front office executives in the NFL too. According to Jim Nagy of the Senior Bowl, he's a Senior Bowl executive. He tweeted out the NFL's turnout in Austin was impressive. He said it included 11 wide receiver coaches coming to check out Xavier Worthy and A.D. Mitchell. He said there were 7 defensive line coaches that came to check out Byron Murphy and Tavondre Sweat, pretty much the best run stuffing interior defensive lineman in the draft and the best pass rushing interior defensive lineman in the draft. He also pointed out, he went through a list basically of what head coaches, GMs, and OCs by position coaches, how many teams were represented. He claims the head coaches that were there were the Texans, DeMeco Ryans, Dolphins, Mike McDaniel, the Colts, Shane Steichen, and the Bengals, Zach Taylor. He claimed were all the head coaches that were there. He said the GMs that were in attendance were the Texans GM, Nick Caserio, Chris Ballard, the GM for the Colts, and the Miami Dolphins GM, Chris Greer, were in attendance, according to Jim Nagy. The OCs that were there, Cowboys OC, Brian Scheinheimer was there, Dolphins OC was there, Colts OC, Bobby Slowick, the Texans OC, was also there. The Patriots sent their defensive coordinator. The Texans sent their defensive coordinator. I think Matt Burke is his name, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, I believe so.
All right. The Dolphins sent their defensive coordinator as well. The wide receiver coaches who represented the Giants, Patriots, Vikings, Ravens, Colts, Steelers, Jets, Texans, Chargers, Bears, and Eagles. The Bears sent their running back coach, the defensive line coaches who came and were in attendance at Texas Pro Day, Saints, Bears, Raiders, Jets, Colts, Vikings, and Giants. Linebackers coaches were the Giants, Bengals, Vikings, Jets, Chargers, Eagles, and Saints. And the special teams coaches that were in attendance were the Colts and the Jets. Also, that's good for a guy like Keelan Robinson. So pretty obvious that the wide receivers were the main event. For those who haven't necessarily, they don't know the kind of the historical perspective of why this could be such a marquee draft for Texas at wide receiver. In the history of the modern draft for Texas football, in the common era draft, there have been only 3 wide receivers total in the history of Texas in the modern era draft taken in the top 50 picks. Lamb Jones in 1980 was taken second overall. Roy Williams, my former teammate twice with the Longhorns and with the Detroit Lions, was taken 7th overall in 2004. And in 1971, Cotton Spire was taken 38th overall to Washington. That's it, guys. And you potentially, Mel Kiper's got 2 wide receivers from Texas, both A.D. Mitchell and Xavier Worthy. These guys, Xavier Worthy actually going ahead of A.D. Mitchell. He's got A.D. Mitchell going to the Kansas City Chiefs, but he's got both those guys going in the first round. And that would be unprecedented for Texas, let alone not in the top 50, but 2 guys going in the first round. And I do think they still will have 2 guys going in the top 50, even if Xavier Worthy or I guess A.D. Mitchell too slides out of the first round into the second round. I don't think either one of them will go past pick 50 overall in the second round. So this is Sark sending a message, and it's a statement to all the wide receivers coming out of high school, all the wide receivers who potentially may jump into the transfer portal. It's almost like when Suge Knight was at the Source Awards and told everybody, hey man, if you don't want nobody dancing in the video, if you want to make a lot of money, all right, you want to and you want to put it down, you need to come to death row. This is Sark pretty much telling all the wide receivers, hey, if you are a great wide receiver and you want to play in a really good offense, you want to play with great quarterbacks, elite quarterbacks, and you want to play in a wide receiver-friendly offense that'll showcase your talent and will weaponize you and maximize your talent, come to Texas. Yeah, he's done it now with 2 back-to-back transfer. If Isaiah Bond becomes the number 1 wide receiver and gets drafted, and people believe he's a first-round talent, he's got speed on par with Xavier Worthy. If that is the case, then you'll showcase 2 wide receivers via the transfer portal being drafted high in back-to-back years, and then you can show that Xavier Worthy took the high school route as a guy who developed through the Sark system. So he could do it either way, as a guy in the transfer portal, or he can take a wide receiver out of high school. Either way, you can really, maximize your ability at Texas at wide receiver.
And I think the key in this too is one of the reasons Texas was never necessarily the biggest wide receiver school. So they were a running back school. They were a school that developed running backs. But you had a running back drafted in the top of the draft last season in Bijan Robinson. You had another running back drafted in Roschon Johnson. And then you have a running back who tore his ACL and is still going to get drafted this year.
Yeah.
And you possibly have another one in Keelan Robinson. I mean, and that's what I'm saying. The crazy part is to be able to produce those wide receivers and have the best wide receiver class in the draft in Texas history. And then also throw in that you are still producing the running backs that level. That offense is creating NFL level talent at a high volume. Then you also have 2 top picks that are defensive linemen. There's just a lot of positive things about recruiting that you can look at where you're gaining in certain areas where in the past, if you gained in one area, you tend to lose in another. They're being able to maintain the areas that they're already at and then grow in others. That's what you want to see for a program that's ascending, is the ability to basically not be known for one specific thing, because you produce everything at Texas. Everything's going to be coming out of here. You don't got to, it's that we need more guys at our pro day, because no matter what hole is on your team, we can fill it.
Yeah, no doubt. And I mean, for years, even when Texas was down, they were developing really good interior defensive linemen and have for years. And this may be one of the best crops that Texas has ever put out there. They're going to have a first-round pick in interior defensive line. So you had 7 NFL defensive line coaches here at the Texas Pro Day. Byron Murphy is going to be a first-round pick, and he looked great at the Pro Day. He did the 3-cone drill again, had a 7.5 time in the 3-cone drill. That would have been second among D tackles at the combine. I mean, he just continues to impress. He ran the 4.87 at the combine. He was great. T'Vondre Sweat actually came in heavier than he was at the combine. Came in at 366 at the combine, measured 367 at pro day. So T'Vondre Sweat saying, hey, man, take it or leave it. This is what I am. This is how I play. This is going to be my size. Go back to the film. And when the way he moves really well for that to be that big. And I believe it's the Saints defensive line coach Todd Grantham that told him that he made a lot of money today. That was reported because he was really impressed with the T'Vondre Sweat workout. And if you go look at those guys, I mean, T'Vondre Sweat's going to be drafted in the second round. Byron Murphy's going to be drafted in the first round. Reminds me of Casey Hampton and Sean Rogers. They also went first round and second round. Texas defensive tackles that have been drafted in the first round. Shout out to L.A. Chin for doing the research. There have been 4 of them in the modern era of the NFL drafts. You had Kenneth Sims. He was first overall. All right, the first pick overall in the draft. So he's a badass. Casey Hampton went 19th in the first round overall. Marcus Tubb and Casey Hampton I played with in 2000, and I've actually played with him 99 and 2000. So he was my former teammate, and him and Sean Rogers were my D tackles. And I got to tell you, I've never had to cover for so few seconds as a defensive back in my life. Basically, by the time the receiver got into their route, most of the time, the quarterback was already under duress. Most of the time, when I go back and look at the quarterback was already having to move around and do because Casey Hampton and Sean Rogers were those guys were monsters on the defensive line, and much like a T'Vondre Sweat and a Byron Murphy, much like those guys. And then Marcus Tubbs, another guy I played with, Marcus Tubbs in 2004, he was drafted 23rd overall. And then there's Malcolm Brown in 2015, drafted 32nd overall, the last pick in the first round. So I mean, that's how good this group is. You've only had 4 first round defensive tackles, and now you're about to have another one. And you last year you had 2 D tackles drafted. You're gonna have 2 again. The last year when you had 2 drafted, they were drafted in the late rounds. Now you're going to have 2 drafted in the earliest rounds. The first and the second round shows you the leap in talent there. So there's no doubt. I mean, Sweat made him some money. I think people have just accepted his weight now. That does put him, I think, firmly in the second round, though. I think there was a possibility that he could crack the first round. And Jim Nagy, the Senior Bowl executive, believes he's still a first-round pick. But I think teams are a little weary of drafting a guy with that kind of size. I think it'll work out for him, but that would make him an outlier. Being that massive and being able to be an every down player.
It's the leery of the guaranteed money, and the guaranteed money goes down in the second round. And so if you say, I just don't feel like guaranteeing this guy that amount of money, not knowing whether his body will hold up under that weight, I'd rather have the option to get out of it earlier, or have the option to, renegotiate a salary earlier than necessarily leaving him, put him in that first round. But I could see him being a high second round pick still, and being somebody that people want to go up to. But I agree with you. I think that the risk factor in it will push him into the second round. But you're much more willing to take that risk early in the second round. And we know the Texans were watching closely. They were watching closely.
Yeah, he had his power stance. Nick Casario had the power stance down there looking at T'Vondre Sweat and watching him. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing about it, right? You brought it up earlier. I mean, if you're an NFL team, there's so many different players that could fill holes potentially on your roster at so many different levels of the draft. You can see why 96 scouts, coaches, and front office execs attended the Texas Pro Day. And we'll go through some of the other guys when we go behind the burnt orange curtain who weren't necessarily your featured players there. I mean, it was all about the wide receivers and all about the defensive linemen. Those will be for Texas, the players taken first in the draft. It'll be your, Byron Murphy, and then A.D. Mitchell or Xavier Worthy, and then it'll probably be T'Vondre Sweat. But I'm with you. I think a team may trade up if either of 4 of those guys drops into the second round. And there's a chance it could happen with A.D. Mitchell. He's been mocked at the bottom of the first round. It could happen with X-Man. He could drop out of the first round. It could happen where, obviously T'Vondre Sweat hasn't been really mocked in the first round, but he's going to be a second round guy. I think Texas has guys that are prime candidates for teams to trade up for.
Yes.
Because X-Man, it'll be a team that, like I said, if he falls in Miami, Mike McDaniel's there in Miami, which loves speed and covets speed, and he drops to the second round, I can see them moving up all the way up to the second round to go get him. T'Vondre Sweat, he's unique in his size, but there are certain NFL systems where he'd be perfect for. They're like, man, this guy's perfect plug and play player for us in our system. So he's another guy they'd move up for. I even think now if AD Mitchell drops, I don't think he will. Team would move up for him. There's no question. I even think JT Sanders is like that. JT Sanders didn't necessarily make a lot of money in his Texas Pro Day. He only had 8 reps on the bench reportedly. Only had 9.6 broad jump. 30-inch vertical. Those are not impressive measurables. That's not impressive testing at all. It doesn't back up a freakish overall athletic profile or skill set. You go back to the film, though. He's got great catch radius, contested catch ability. His body control is next level. He's a savvy route runner, knows how to almost like a basketball player, knows how to position himself, DBs if he has to. So I think that's where his value is. But I think I can see a team looking at JT Sanders saying, "Oh, he's perfect for us, though." He might, and he's a second tight end still, I believe, on the board. He just hasn't tested really well, so athletically, his athletic profile will drop his value. But I could see a team saying, "I don't want a team to steal him if he drops all the way to the middle or the bottom of the second round. We're gonna go up and get him because we think he's."
And that's a guy that we said his head coach was there, Zach Taylor. Cincinnati Bengals could be looking at tight end to pair with Joe Burrow. And realizing you may lose a T. Higgins after this season, or he may demand to be traded and not even suit up for you ever. If you want another passing threat for Joe Burrow, but you want him in a cheaper option, that tight end is a cheaper option. And so you can say we can take a wide receiver later, or we can sign somebody else, and we can have another guy here at wide receiver. But we may want another tight end that we feel can run routes and be that guy as a pass catcher that can make their linebackers have to come off a little bit more. The Bengals are a team, I would say, that is one of those teams that could trade back up in the second round if he falls far enough that they may go like for a guy like that, or just use him at their pick in the second round if he falls down to him. That's a type of team that has a lot of other pieces, but maybe is near the end of what they can afford at wide receiver and wants to go out and get a tight end they really feel can make a difference in the passing game.
Yeah, no, that's a good point about that too. That's a team specifically that they have a kind of an all-in philosophy right now. So I can see them making a pick like that, going, "No, man, Joe just needs another weapon." Where we're almost indefensible. We have so many downfield threats, and Joe Burrow can just pick teams apart. So I like that too. One of the things I got to point out here, because we talked about the 96 scouts, coaches, execs that were in attendance at the Texas Pro Day. 4 NFL head coaches, 3 NFL GMs in attendance. I mean, it really was impressive, and it did symbolize to me that kind of the journey. It almost symbolized the completion of the journey for a lot of these players, because there's a great picture. Shout out to my man CJ Vogel, who has it. And that was a lot of great coverage of the Texas Pro Day. My man CJ Vogel over at On Texas Football had a really good photo of Anthony Hill, Colton Vasek, Leonga Lafau, DeAndre Moore, Jaden Blue, all right, the youngsters. They're just sitting there watching, right? They're sitting there watching. They're thinking about their day. They're there to support their teammates, but I'm sure, trust me, they're daydreaming. I've been in that situation. They're daydreaming about, oh man, when I'm going to be out here and it's going to be 3-4 NFL head coaches and I'm going to have my opportunity. And then you have the guys who are actually getting ready to embark on accomplishing their dream, or the start of their dream, which is to be an NFL player. That's what every college football player dreams of, right? 100% of them want to play in the league. And you got the guys being showcased, right? They're putting on the show there for all the NFL scouts. And then you have the former players who are already in the NFL or been there already. Michael Huff's there, and Derek Johnson, they're hanging out, and Quandre Diggs is there. And you got the guys who already been in the NFL or already in the NFL. And so it almost is the complete circle.
Yeah.
And is represented there at the Texas Pro Day. And I think that is because you didn't have the completion of that symbolic completion of that journey for the last 10 years. Because you didn't have all the NFL scouts and head coaches and GMs there, and the players weren't coming back as much. First of all, they weren't welcomed back as much, but they weren't coming back as much because the brand, right, it wasn't as healthy, and you didn't have as many players. You were sitting to the combine, so the players on the field, that product wasn't necessarily representative of a program that was thriving either. And then I'm sure the young guys were still going to the pro day, but less to daydream about, because you don't necessarily see it in front of you. Now they can see their dreams, right? They can actually see the path to accomplishing their dreams. They were in the same position room with these guys who are performing on the field. So they saw how they worked. They know what it takes. They're watching the NFL scouts and interact with these guys and the coaches, and these guys are about to be drafted and embark on, another part of their journey to accomplish their dream. And then they look over, and then there's Huff Daddy, and then there's Quandre Diggs, and there's Derek Johnson, and other guys who are in the NFL already who have come back, and they also represent, part of the end of that journey for these guys. And it gives Sark the ability to sell the program in that way that, oh, no, you're going to compete for championships. You're going to come here and play with great players. And then we're going to help you accomplish your dream, which is to play in the NFL. And we're going to give you every resource to do so. And we're going to help you on the biggest stage, on the biggest platforms, be able to do that and showcase your skill set. And that's kind of, to me, what it symbolizes. And I think for Sark, give him credit because it's his vision, but give the guys credit too, because they talked about all the guys who were there, the guys who were actually working out there, talked about leaving the program better than they found it. They remarked about how this is the standard now, and it should always be the standard at 96 scouts, coaches, and GMs and execs are at Texas Pro Day. It should be like that, and it should never drop off again. And these guys left the program better than they found it. That's the goal. That's always the goal.
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't have said it better. That's really seeing that and seeing how much the program is supporting itself and how welcoming it is to the guys to come back, which we're hearing stories now about guys about how much happier they are coming back to Texas right now and seeing what they're doing, to seeing all the guys. And in different pictures, I saw the same picture you did, and I saw different guys, I saw Michael Taff in a picture, and you just kind of see him in the background. They're watching. And part of that is, they're watching, trying to figure out what do scouts want to see? Right, what do I need to work on? And what drills do I need to start doing in my free time so I'm ready for this stuff when I get my shot? You get those, and then you get the guys that are supporting and just happy. And you see that the leadership is there, that these guys truly do have a family care for guys like Tavondre and Jay Witt and Ryan White and guys that they were supporting through this, that they're so happy to see them getting this love and respect from the NFL right now. It's a really cool thing to see, because it has been such a long time at Texas that this has been the case. And when you're talking about hoping that it's not just a 1 year you get in the playoffs, and that obsession to be better and the culture that Sark is building, I don't know how many better snapshots there are of it than what the pro day was.
Yeah, it really was, man. I thought it was a great kind of microcosm of for the players anyway, the journey that they're all on. All right, the guy starting that journey and the guy sort of at the end of that journey, it was all right there in one place. And like I said, it's for the guys. I thought it was pretty inspirational. Okay, we'll come back. We'll come back and get into behind the burnt orange curtain, or go behind the burnt orange curtain, I should say, and we will further discuss some of the other players who may have increased their draft stock at the Texas Pro Day. There's Jalen Ford, and there's Ryan Watts we haven't discussed yet. Keelan Robinson we haven't discussed yet. Jed Bush worked out. So we'll come back and talk about some of the other guys who also made some turned some heads and made themselves some money at the Texas Pro Day. All of that and more right here on the Rodcast, featuring Patrick Davis. I'm lifetime Longhorn Rod Babers, coming back on the Horn. All right, time to get back to some Texas Pro Day discussion. Shout out to my man CB, just sent me a great piece of it's a video. It's a clip of a video, I should say. It's like 2 or 3 seconds, but it's very telling. It's actually lifetime Longhorn Rod Wright, who is now the defensive line coach for the Texans, talking to Devondre Sweat. And just having a little conversation. Shout out to my man CB, Chris GB 002,000. And shout out to Corey Mose, who's doing a really good job over there for KView, just with the off-season combine coverage. He was at the combine, got a lot of great audio from the guys, and he was at Pro Day too. So got a lot of great folks covering the Texas program right now. But the Texans, just with the philosophy of the team, because they believe in drafting players from the state of Texas. Nick Casario is on the record for saying that actually is a data point that it increases their basically opinion of players for their roster, particularly because they want players with state pride. They believe it matters. So there's a good chance that one of these Texas players could end up on the Texans roster, I should say. Whether an undrafted free agent down the line or whether they end up drafting one of these guys. Let's get to some of the players and talking about some of the players who we didn't get to last segment. Obviously, we discussed the defensive tackles, Byron Murphy and Devondre Sweat, discussed the wide receivers, Xavier Worthy and A.D. Mitchell. Those guys get a lot of publicity, as well they should. And we talked about J.T. Sanders a little bit as well. Let's talk about some of the guys who weren't as celebrated, but I think really increased their draft stock and did themselves a lot of favor at the Texas Pro Day. First of all, Ryan Watts. He just continues to impress. He really does. Prior to the off-season, combine season, or the workouts and the testing, I wouldn't have thought that he would be considered for a late round pick for a team. But I think right now there'll be some teams looking at Ryan Watts when it comes in those later rounds of the NFL draft as a developmental project. He had an 11-1 broad jump. And that would have been fourth best at the combine among cornerbacks. If you combine that with what he did at the combine, that would be fourth best broad jump, fourth best shuttle at the combine, second best cone drill among cornerbacks at the combine. He was sixth in his vertical jump at the combine. He claims that the only reason his broad jump was so bad at the combine because they made him do the vertical. He says a lot. He said he kept making a mistake with his foot and where his foot placement was, so they'd make him do it over and over again. So he said he was jumping through the roof, but he did like twice the amount of vertical leaps as everybody else. And they said it wore him out for the broad jump. And so he wanted to do the broad jump again, did it, and had the fourth best, or at least it would have been if at the combine among the cornerbacks. So what he's showing is he's got great short area quickness, 3-cone drill, shuttle, the short shuttle drill. He's got explosion, broad jump, and the vertical jump. I mean, some of the best in this draft class among cornerbacks. He had the fastest gauntlet speed at the NFL Combine with 19.8. Now his 40, we run a 4.5, but his 6'3", there's a belief, and Pete Carroll and Dan Quinn actually were the ones who kind of championed this theory, but their belief is that length matters just as much as speed in the NFL. So you want long-rangey defenders. So I'll take a Richard Sherman, or I'll take a Richard Sherman who runs a 4.5 or something, or whatever Richard Sherman ran. I'll take him. But at 6'3", they believe that an inch, like an extra inch of wingspan or arm length, that it was the equivalent to a 10th of a second in a 40-yard dash. So they're like, no, Richard Sherman runs a 4.5, but on a football field, he's actually more like a 4.4 athlete because he'll get there around the same time as a faster athlete who has a shorter wingspan, who doesn't have the range, and they have more range. That was just their belief. And you could argue Cam Chancellor, that wasn't a bad way to construct and build the defense. So if you're looking at a guy like Ryan Watts with that philosophy, right, as your kind of driving model and method of evaluation, yeah, Ryan Watts looks like a hell of an athlete right now. He said teams are considering him at safety and corner at both. And he said Mike McDaniel actually came over to him after his workout and gave him a shout out saying, hey, man, you look really good and smooth for a guy your size. And you got versatility. You can play corner and safety. Remember, I told you guys since 1999, you go look at all the DBs who were drafted or undrafted coming out of DBU here in Texas. Over 55% of them guys played multiple positions at Texas or in the NFL. Versatility is huge in terms of making the NFL roster. And Ryan Watts has it. So I think Ryan Watts is going to get drafted late. I'll admit I did not think that at the beginning of this process. He made some money.
I'm with you. I didn't think that either, but we'll see. I feel like he could be one of those guys because there's so many more scouts there, because no one feels like he's going to be off the radar. That, as someone who in previous years would have gone undrafted because people feel that they have the inside line that he'll be the better guy and they can sign him in after, in the undrafted free agency market, that maybe they'll say, well, we don't want to let him go because we already have 3 other guys and we're not his premium destination, but we really want to bring him into our system because we think we can get him fixed up, and we don't think he's necessarily going to be a star player for us next year or the year after. We can get him on the practice squad, get him start going, and then we'll build him up to get him where we want him to be in 2 years, that he can be a starter for us or somebody who's playing good minutes for us.
Yeah. No, you're right. I mean, I think a developmental project on the practice squad would be great for him for a year or so, and then you can see if he can actually make your active roster. So he made some money. Keelan Robinson's made some money, guys. And first of all, the football gods are helping him out. The NFL has proposed a new kickoff rule. Not rule, but new kickoff return that will, in fact, replicate, or it'll be very similar to the XFL kickoff return. That's going to make kickoff returns now more of a weapon. We'll get into some of the details later on the show, but it's basically going to incentivize teams to return the football instead of touchbacks. If that is the case, teams will prioritize kickoff return specialists like Keelan Robinson, who is the best kickoff returner in this draft class. I'm not saying a team's going to draft him because of that, but I think he could be a priority free agent. It increases his odds of making a roster or making a practice squad. So he had 20 reps on the bench. Guys, that was more than Jaylan Ford had on the bench. Jaylan Ford had 18 reps on the bench. So he just showed you a lot of strength for a guy his size, and he's got speed. 4th fastest 40-yard dash at the combine for running backs, 2nd in his 10-yard split. I think Keelan Robinson, because the NFL is trending toward changing their kickoff rule and incentivizing teams to emphasize the return game, he is a great kickoff returner, best one in this draft class. Keelan Robinson may have made him some money, just improving some of the measurables and the testing, what he did at the combine, what he's got on film, and now with the NFL now having to, if they approve it, they need 3/4 votes from the owners to approve it. If they approve the new kickoff return, guy like Keelan Robinson will jump up in terms of draft value, but also his overall value for teams who will be looking at kickoff return specialists. So good for Keelan Robinson.
I definitely think that's a good sign for him as well. But yeah, it depends on what rules they officially come out the kickoff that could help him out a little bit more. But he will definitely be somebody that is going to be on everybody's radar and can show that he can do a bunch of different things. And that's, it's also, he's going to be one of those great guys for Texas to show to the players who sometimes, are going to have issues with doing special teams or whatever else. Keelan Robinson dedicated himself to special teams, and he's in the league right now. So when you talk about recruiting guys, when you talk about getting guys to understand their roles on the team, to have the best team going forward, Keelan Robinson will be one of those examples, depending on where he goes and what career he can have in the NFL, of he dedicated himself. He wasn't, his senior year, he wasn't really featured in the running game much at all. However, he still makes it to the league because of how he was used.
Jed Bush had a decent workout. I'm not saying Jed Bush will be drafted at all. But Jed Bush had a 10. I think he had a 10-2 broad jump, 33-inch vertical, 4.740, which wasn't bad at all. 7.12 cone, 3-cone drill, 4.41 agility drills, and he worked out at fullback as well. An H-back and tight end. So that's good for him. At least a team is looking at him, at giving him versatility, or at least looking at him as a versatile athlete that can give you options. Also, Jaylan Ford, 4.71 40-yard dash, not bad. 7.16 3-cone drill and 18 reps on the bench. He had a 10.6 broad jump, which is not bad for Jaylan Ford. Jaylan Ford will force teams to go back to the film, and when they go back to the film and watch him, they'll see that he is a high IQ athlete. That's where, he's going to be drafted somewhere in the middle rounds. A guy like Jaylan Ford, you're not looking for him to blow you away athletically as a freak. He's giving you a baseline athletic profile, but you go to the film and then you see that his high football IQ, his football character, That's what's going to actually make him an NFL guy. He has an NFL future, in my opinion. So that's what Jalen Ford did. Jay Witt did not work out. He's still dealing with an injury. He's supposed to work out on the second pro day. They're going to have another pro day April 14th, and he's going to work out at that pro day. Christian Jones did work out. He improved his 3-cone drill, but as an offensive lineman, not really much you can do to impress when they do all that testing. But Christian Jones has increased his draft stock, and he will be drafted. So right now you're talking about total. Xavier, you're talking about Byron Murphy, Xavier Worthy, A.D. Mitchell, Tavondre Sweat, J.T. Sanders, Jalen Ford. I think Christian Jones is going to be in there. Ryan Watts. Now we're looking at 8 guys that are going to be potentially drafted for Texas. I don't think Keelan Robinson will be drafted. I think he'll be a priority free agent. But that's 8 guys. I mean, that is it's been a long time. And if you have 3 in the first round, you haven't had that many since 1980. So Texas definitely moving in the right direction when you look at talent development on the 40 acres. Okay, we come back. We'll get into off the record on the other side. We got like four or 5 different stories we can throw out there. All of them are pretty good. So we'll have some fun and off the record. Try to cover as many of those topics as we can. This is the Rodcast featuring Patrick Davis. I'm lifetime Longhorn Rod Babers, coming right back on the horn. Hey, what's up, folks? Lifetime Longhorn Rod Babers. Let me tell you about our friends over at Apple Leasing. Now, if time is money, my friends at Apple Leasing are in the business of saving you both. They're going to save you time and save you money. Apple Leasing has the ability to put you in any make or model vehicle that you want. The professionals over at Apple Leasing can help you get the price you want, the payment you want on the car that you want. It's just that simple, folks. The folks at Apple Leasing, they've been doing this for a long time. Are you talking about 4 decades of doing business the right way here in Austin, making sure every one of their customers get the most bang for their buck. They're all about customer satisfaction. All it takes from you is one phone call or one click on Apple Leasing's website, and you'll get a quote on any make or model vehicle that you want. They can even give you an estimate on the value of your trade-in right over the phone. Apple Leasing's simple interest easy lease is just that. It is simple and easy. It's going to give you a lot of flexibility, which is going to give you more possibilities and options to help you find the vehicle that fits you best, but more importantly, the vehicle that fits your budget best. My friends at Apple Leasing, they understand that everything seems overpriced these days. That's why they want to make sure that you get tremendous value, right? The most bang for your buck. That's why leasing makes more sense than ever. You're only paying for the part of the car you're actually using. My friends at Apple Leasing get all the same discounts, all the same incentives that the dealers do, except they rather pass those savings on to you, the customer. So what are you waiting for? Give them a call today, 512-346-9977. That's 512-346-9977. You hit them up. You let them know what your specifications are, what your price point is, what your budget's like, what kind of car you want, whether you want an SUV or you want a truck or you want a sedan, whatever it is, and you let them do all the hard work. You let them, stress out about it. They'll do all the vetting for you. They'll do the research for you, and all you got to worry about is enjoying that new car smell. Give them a call, 512-346-9977, or visit appleleasing.com. That's appleleasing.com. All right, welcome back to the Rodcast. Time to get to a little off the record. Patrick, I think you got a story as well that you might want to share here during off the record, so we can just kind of go rapid fire, go back and forth. Here's the first story I want to throw out there. So Deion Sanders, who's done a great job there in Colorado. I mean, they've doubled the amount of applications. They've raised tons of money. They've been able to do a great job in fundraising now that Deion's there. And their recruiting classes obviously have gone to a whole nother level now with Deion there because he's able to recruit with his brand, and he's able to recruit athletes at Colorado prior to him coming just weren't able to even get an audience with. But now we've figured out he's got a very strange method of recruiting. The USA Today reported that he has made 0 off-campus recruiting visits to high school recruits or to recruits' homes. He has not been to one recruit's home since he's been there.
That's crazy. That's odd.
During his 2 winter isn't that crazy? Yeah. He says, let me address something else I need to address. I don't know who did it. I don't know if they're in here. If you are, you can raise your hand. He said, if you're in there, she said, basically, he said, there's an article that came out that said, I don't go on visits. My approach is totally different than many coaches. He said that I'm a businessman as well. I'm a businessman as well. So I try to save our university money every darn chance I get. For me to go, let's say, to Florida and I'm visiting IMG, you don't think those coaches are going to be a little upset if I don't come by the school down the street? You think it's going to be pandemonium? I'm going to get naysayed. He said, then if I go to that one, why didn't I come to the other school? Now the coach is mad and he's going to let that kid come, or not going to let that kid come because I chose that school over that school. He said, basically, that's why he doesn't go. He said, the kids want to see how I live. They don't want me to see how they live. He said, they want to see how I live, how I get down, see what I got going on. They don't necessarily want me to see how they live. Yeah.
It's an interesting approach.
I've never heard of it before, but it's working.
It is. It's the Deion way, which is if you're able to carry off, I'm the greatest, so I can't go places because I'll be mobbed by too many people. There's very few coaches who can pull that off.
Nobody can do it. He's the only one that I know. I don't think I've ever heard of that before.
No, amazing. Because Sark can't go, look, man, if I just walk out into public, everyone's going to be screaming, Sark. Everyone's going to be coming for me.
That's right. There'll be a mob. They'll mob me.
They'll mob me. He won't be that.
Yeah. He's a true celebrity head coach in college. That's wild. All right. You said you had 1, 2 here for off the record.
We do. That it was announced yesterday that Scott Hansen, who does NFL Red Zone, is going to be joining the NBC Olympic coverage, part of Gold Zone, which they've done a couple times, but the time difference is, and now it's been 8 years since they've done it, so it should be a good run with Andrew Siciliano for the Paris Olympics of 2024. It's basically a Red Zone thing. It's Gold Zone where they go. There's like 40 events happening at once, so we're just going between events, showing you the best thing. So it's like we'll just cut over to the race you want to see in swimming, and then we'll cut over to the final over here, and then we'll cut over to this person. So it could be a much more exciting way to watch the Olympics. And
do I have to have I have to subscribe to this?
I'm assuming it's going to be on Peacock because NBC owns the Olympics.
I got Peacock then.
So I'm assuming it's Peacock because that is kind of the NBC app for all of this. So it may just be in the NBC app, but it may be on Peacock as well. But yeah, Gold Zone, Scott Hansen is going to be on that this year with Andrew Siciliano. So Siciliano does the NFL, the DirecTV version, and and Scott Hansen does the everyone else version of Red Zone version. And they're teaming up to do this. So it should be, I think they're going to put more effort into Gold Zone this year. It should be a lot of fun to watch.
I'm interested, actually.
I am too.
It's a brilliant way to approach the Olympic coverage. I think with the ADD generation that we have and people having the attention span of a goldfish, that's about right. Have it on there for just the race that matters or for just the competition that matters. I don't need to watch all of the lead up and the breakdown, the coverage. I just want to see the meat. Just get to the meat of it. That's what they're doing. I like it.
And Paris is 5 hours ahead of New York, so 6 hours ahead of us. So the Gold Zone will be on from 6 a.m. to 4 p.m. in Central Time.
Okay.
So during your events, but all day you'll have Gold Zone on. And just flip over and just they just won that. Okay.
It's a brilliant strategy.
Think about seeing races and like decathlons and stuff that you don't necessarily care about the whole thing, but you can kind of see
It's the Cliff Notes version of the Olympics. Damn, that's a dated reference. I got to find a new reference because I don't even know if that exists anymore. I don't even know. You know,
I had it.
Dude, yeah, no, I know people like at least you get it. You're younger, but still, that's an old dated. I don't even know if that exists anymore.
You know,
so I'll get a new
Rod,
reference.
I was too lazy to even read the Cliff Notes.
That is lazy. That is lazy.
That.
You couldn't read the Cliff Notes?
No,
come on, man.
I need it shorter. I'll tell you what I am. I'm a Wikipedia article. That is like one Wikipedia article. 3 paragraphs. I need it all summed up.
You're the guy that needs to chat GPT. You need the AI version of it. Hey, AI, he's asking the question. Hey, can you summarize this book for me? Can you summarize it? Boom. It just breaks it out. Summarize The Great Gatsby. Okay, there you go. All right. Thanks for that, Patrick. Good stuff there. All right. We'll come back. We got to talk a little bit about the Shohei Ohtani story. I want to talk a little bit about it because it's pretty interesting. Some of the details that are coming out, and Patrick will let you know about one of the working theories out there about this Shohei Ohtani story. We'll break down Texas versus Colorado State as well on the other side, and we got Rod's round today. So we're jam-packed. We got a lot of good stuff coming up, so don't go anywhere. This is the Rodcast featuring my man Patrick Davis. I'm Lifetime Longhorn Rod Babers coming right back on the horn. Welcome back to the Rodcast featuring Patrick Davis. I'm lifetime Longhorn Rod Babers. It is a musically themed day of the week. Is a new theme Thursday. My man Patrick picks out a new theme for Thursday, and the theme is it's a dedication to March Madness, which we are in right now. As a matter of fact, speaking of March Madness, we'll break down and preview Texas versus Colorado State, which is happening tonight. We'll get into that first round matchup and break it down here in momentarily after our Horn headlines. But the musically themed day of the week on a new theme Thursday is dedicated to March Madness. So all the songs refer to madness, refer to crazy stuff or insanity, some type of reference to madness, crazy, insanity, or something along those lines. That is what the new theme Thursday is all about. So we appreciate Patrick and all of his creative mojo, because he's the ideallionaire on the show. Speaking of March Madness and what makes it mad, all the upsets that usually happen and trying to figure out or trying to predict how this tournament is going to go. That leads us to the big fat poll of the day. My man Patrick also came up with the big fat poll of the day. Let the people know what the big fat poll of the day is, Patrick.
The big fat poll of the day. Who is your Cinderella for this tournament, for this season, for this year? Who is your Cinderella team that's going to come out in the next couple days and get a big upset win in the first round, make it all the way to the round of 32, playing a second weekend? Who will be that Cinderella team? There's not a lot of people are saying they're going chalk. We get a few New Mexicos. We got a few Grand Canyons. We're getting a few. So we're getting a few. We're getting a few different schools that are going in, but a lot of people trying to stay chalk.
Yeah, I'm gonna be pretty chalky, man. I'm gonna look like Ashley Larry when I get done with my bracket. It's gonna be pretty chalky out there. That's all right though. I think there will be some upsets, though. We know that happens every year. Hopefully, it will not be the Texas Longhorns being upset by the Colorado State Rams. We'll get to that matchup and break it down here in a second, and we're also gonna get to the Horn headlines. Before we do that, we gotta hit this Shohei Ohtani story just really quickly. So the Shohei Ohtani, so you mentioned it in your Horn headlines, and you'll get to it, of course, in the Horn headlines. But on Wednesday, basically representatives of Shohei Ohtani, his team, accused his interpreter, now former interpreter, of engaging in a massive theft of his funds, of basically some of the ball players' funds, to place bets with an alleged bookmaker. The alleged bookmaker, is named Matthew Boyer. He's an Orange County resident, and this comes from the LA Times. Lawyers for Ohtani made that claim, and they actually, after the Times learned that Ohtani's name had surfaced in an investigation into this guy, Matthew Boyer. And Ohtani's representatives looked into the actions of the interpreter, Ipe Mizuhara. Is it Mizuhara?
I believe so, yeah.
Okay.
Your guess is as good as mine.
Yes, I believe that is it, but I could be off about that. In response to the Times inquiry and in response to their story, basically lawyers for Ohtani, they made that claim like, hey man, it's that guy. It's the interpreter. It is not Shohei Ohtani. He has nothing to do with this. Sources were told that it's in the millions of dollars, the money that was stolen from Shohei Ohtani, allegedly by this interpreter. In a statement, the West Hollywood law firm Burke Bretler said, in the course of responding to recent media inquiries, we discovered that Shohei has been the victim of a massive theft, and we are turning the matter over to the authorities. They could not reach this interpreter, Mizuhara, for comment. But the allegations are that he placed bets with Boyer, according to the sources, and that the Dodgers, reacting to that, fired Mizuhara as the interpreter for Shohei Ohtani. One of the sources said that Mizuhara was not truthful with the team when they asked him about the Times story, and that he lied about his participation in this. And after that, they decided to move on. He was actually at the time still interpreting for Shohei Ohtani in Seoul right now, in Korea, on Wednesday, just yesterday.
Yeah.
Just as recent as yesterday, before they fired him. So this is all happening right now, real time. Major League Baseball has not been contacted by prosecutors. The story says Boyer has not been charged with a crime officially, but he was the focus of an investigation. The Times said that they were told Boyer never had contact with Ohtani at all. That Matthew Boyer never met, never spoke, or texted with Ohtani. No contact with him at all. But he did brag that he was a client of his. He would brag to other people in his industry, and he would brag to other bookmakers. He bragged to people who were betting that Shohei was indeed a client. He admitted I'd brag about that, but I never met him or anything like that. And the story, at least from Mizahara's side, is that he had these gambling debts, according to this ESPN story, or the spokesman then made Mizahara available to provide that version of events. According to ESPN, Mizahara's gambling debts that he had were paid off by Shohei Ohtani. Like, that's the story that they're going with, that Shohei was helping pay the debts that he had as a just gambling. They didn't steal the money. He said, I didn't steal the money. I got a gambling problem, a serious gambling problem. And he was being a friend, helping me out, pay my gambling debts. And I believe that's Mizahara's side.
Well, that was his side. His side originally was, look, I gambled, didn't know it was illegal, never bet on MLB, knew I shouldn't do that, gambled on other sports. I got in over my head. I went to Shohei. I said, I need help. He bailed me out. That's what happened. And then Shohei Ohtani's lawyers came out and said, that's not true. Shohei had no knowledge of this. This is a theft. And then basically they had to come back out, and the translator had to say, now I can't say anything because now I'm being accused of theft. So now I'm being told I can't say anything. So now I have to be quiet. But that, he didn't know. And it's where people are starting to get a little bit more suspicious of it, was that on Wednesday, when clearly Ohtani should have had some idea this was happening, he was just talking in the dugout with him like nothing was happening, smiling and laughing. And so that seemed kind of odd. And then the fact that it seemed as if they thought they could get away with it and it wasn't going to be a huge story. And as the story kept getting bigger, Ohtani's lawyers realized, though, this is something where you could be suspended for a long time. They can void your contract. They can get a lot of trouble if you have anything to do with this. So you need to make it that he stole the money instead of, like, it can't be that you paid it. You cannot be tied to this at all. And so the story changed. And so the theory is now that this is the conspiracy theory. The conspiracy theory is that Shohei Ohtani, that this was his fall guy and that he was having him place the bets, or at least that he knew about this and was fine with it until basically the repercussions of what the actions could have been came out. But the number that they're saying is at least $4.5 million.
Yeah, they're saying,
and that's really what this more suspicious part of it is how
can he steal that much money without anybody knowing?
Well, no. How does a translator get a credit line of $4.5 million? How does a translator who's not Shohei Ohtani, who's all of this stuff, how does he continue? How is he betting that much? He doesn't make that much.
That's what I'm saying.
Like, it doesn't feel like I made a mistake. I got $4.5 million in debt. If I tried my hardest to get all the credit I possibly could and everything else, I would be lucky if I get $100,000 in debt. Like, so if I did all that, it'd be about 100,000 if I got lucky to get enough and win enough bets that they gave me more, and then I could blow it back the other way. And maybe if I went to multiple casinos and did all that, if I had one guy, it feels like there had to be somebody more, like there had to be at least a belief of Boyer that Shohei Ohtani was the one placing these bets. Even if he wasn't, it has to be the belief by Boyer. No, the guy who just signed the $700 million contract is the one placing the bets. So I'm not worried about the money. Because if I worked for if I worked for Shohei Ohtani and I went to the car dealership and said I need a car, they'd still check my credit.
Yeah. No, what I want to know, but what we need to know is how big were the individual bets too, right? And like how many of them, because the truth is, you're right. You need somebody to front him the money, or why would Boyer, if he's a guy that's a bookie, why would he give this random dude that much line of credit unless he knew where he was connected and who he was connected to, and he knew, oh no, I'll get the money because it's actually Shohei's money. So I don't know which way it is, if he's being fronted with money or if he's getting a line of credit from the bookie. Either way, it goes back to Shohei, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Because it's like, well, how do you get access to that kind of money? Like, that's a lot of money for him to have access to. So if he got that much in debt, why would the guy give him that much? I'm with you. I don't know. And Boyer's not going to answer that question either. So I will say it's a really good strategy of plausible deniability for Shohei.
Yeah.
Because it looks like they're just going to put it all on this guy. And then the Boyer is already saying, never had contact with Shohei, never talked to Shohei. I lied about saying it was Shohei's bets. I didn't know if it was Shohei's bets or not. So it looks like they may have a good fall guy. And we still don't know exactly what this guy's role was in this, but you're right. It looks bad.
It looks bad.
Optics.
And I think the other key is MLB really doesn't want this story. Like they're already struggling of falling behind everybody else. And, doing these games at 6 o'clock in the morning, 5 o'clock in the morning, it's already not the greatest look in the world. And then to have this right before your season starts is possibly the greatest player, the guy that you were trying to build as the new face of baseball. First of all, can't pitch in his next season because of his injuries and has to get rehab and fix his shoulder. But on the flip of that, he also may be gambling already on sports, which I get. If I was playing for the Angels, I might be gambling too. But there's just so many pieces of it. That and like to not have Ohtani fire him, that the Dodgers had to fire him, and it wasn't like it just seems crazy to be like
this close guy, though.
This guy stole $4. Yeah, but if someone stole $4.5 million from me, my best friend stole $4.5 million from me, even if I had $700 million, we probably wouldn't be that close anymore.
No, I agree, but that goes back to the conspiracy theory that maybe Shohei. If you're that close, where the bodies are buried.
Yeah.
You know a lot of dirt about people.
That's true.
And you got to be careful. It's like, no, the Dodgers need to fire him because I can't fire him, because if I fire him, he's going to be pissed at me. If he's pissed at me, he's going to throw me under. He's going to get personal about stuff he knows me. He knows. I mean, apparently their wives hang out together. Wives are good friends. He became Shohei's, I believe, his interpreter in 2017 when he signed with the Angels. He became his personal interpreter, and he's been with him since then.
Yeah. And
they say they do all kind of stuff like together. I mean, they say when Shohei was hurt, he was like getting the groceries for Shohei. That the team facilities, they're BFFs. They hang out together all the time. You see Shohei, you're going to see this guy, Mizuhara, right there, very close. And he's basically been, if a companion at the least, BFF at the most.
Yeah. It's one of those stories that you hope that Shohei, as much as you hate it, you hope that he was victimized and that he was smart enough, he didn't gamble. It all kind of goes, you're able to sweep it under the rug and say it was that guy. It sucks. It's a bad story, but it'll be interesting to watch in the coming weeks because it is, I'm not going to say he did any of this. It's just there's a lot of suspicious stuff around it. And as more information comes out about it, hopefully we'll be able to clear the name or not clear the name, but hopefully we'll be able to clear the name when more information comes out. It's just a lot of suspicious stuff right now.
It really is. It really is. All right. I had to get that conversation in because that story is blowing up right now. All right. Let's get to the Horn headlines, and then we'll come back and we'll preview that Texas versus Colorado State matchup tonight for the men in their first round of the NCAA tournament. But right now, let's get informed and educated on the big stories of the day with the Horn headlines with my man, Patrick Davis.
All right, your Horn headlines brought to you by Top Gun Rentals and Lawn Equipment. Texas baseball took care of business yesterday, beating Air Force 12-3 behind the bats of Max Ballou and Will Gasparino. Charlie Hurley gets his second win of the season, pitching 5 innings of 4-hit baseball and allowing 2 earned runs. Texas gets a day off before facing Baylor over the weekend. Texas softball got a run rule 10-0 win over number 17 ranked Florida State in just 6 innings, with Mag Morgan picking up her 7th win of the season. Reese Atwood led the way with 4 RBIs off her home run and triple in the game. They start a series with UCF on Friday. The NCAA tournament field of 64 is set and ready for roughly 12 hours of action, both today and tomorrow. Last night, Grambling edged out Montana State 88-81 in overtime for the opportunity to take on Purdue, and Colorado overcame a slow start to knock off Boise State 60-53, earning a first-round matchup against Florida. Tournament action kicks off this morning at 11:15 with Michigan State versus Mississippi State, and the Longhorns tip off at 5:50 against 10-seed Colorado State. And finally, the Dodgers and Padres were in action again this morning in Seoul, South Korea, with the Padres winning 15-11. That game is now final. Shohei Ohtani was in the lineup after the Dodgers reportedly fired his longtime friend and interpreter after allegations of a massive theft related to illegal gambling. That is your Horn headlines.
All right, thank you, Patrick, for the Horn headlines. Yeah, and I remember I saw the stat about the Mountain West Conference, which Colorado State is from, by the way. They're from the Mountain West Conference, and Boise State was too, lost in their first 4 matchup. Mountain West Conference seeds are 1-26. Double-digit Mountain West Conference seeds, I should say. Double-digit Mountain West Conference seeds are 1-26 all-time in the tourney, with only 6 of those losses by 7 or fewer points. So the Mountain West Conference, they're not great in the NCAA tournament. I think also something else that's helping Texas out in this matchup against Colorado State, it'll be the Colorado State's 5th game in the last 7 days. They're 210th in bench minutes. The fatigue factor should be something that's advantageous to Texas. Texas will be a more rested team. Some people say that could be rust as well, but they should be more rested team. And if the flow of this game ends up an up-tempo game where this team wants to get out and run a little bit, Texas should be able to run with them, and Texas should have fresher legs. No doubt about it.
Yeah, I mean, they should be able to be rested up for this game. They should be able to, play 40 minutes. I mean, we can't say it more times than that. Play 40 minutes. We've been asking all season for it. It hasn't really happened. But you want to see this team play 40 minutes. They're the better team. They're the more talented team, more athletic team. Colorado State's nothing that Colorado State does pops off the page. There's not a player on the team that you think this is the guy to come dominate Texas. So Texas has every opportunity to win. However, that hasn't always been the case this season. Now they have played better against lower opponents throughout the end of the season. They were able to handle teams like this. I think this Colorado State team is closer to an Oklahoma, which you were able to beat a couple times for Texas. That's closer to what this team looks like, which is a team that wants to be built more in defense. However, they're not the best defensive team. And then their offense is stagnant at points. It's not great. They're not a good three-point shooting team. They do shoot a good percentage of twos because they just don't try and take a lot of threes. They try and go inside. Texas doesn't have the best rim protection, so you will see points in the paint more than you like for Colorado State. But you're going to see that, and Texas just has to stay aggressive, stay attacking the boards, and they should be able to handle this game. But you just can't allow those long stretches for you to lose focus. Start thinking about Saturday's game. Start thinking ahead at any point and let Colorado State get back in this and then be fighting for it at the end of the game, because it is going to be a crowd that is against you because it's just the way it is. They're the lower seed. People root for the lower seed in the NCAA tournament. A lot of those people are going to be there that came in the morning to see North Carolina. North Carolina is playing in Raleigh. Those are going to be a lot of Carolina fans. And in Texas, Carolina is not fans of Texas. They don't want to face you either. So it's going to be a move. It's going to be a mood in the arena that is going to be anti-Texas. It's fine, but you just have to be able to get a big enough lead, take them out of the game. Don't let them become a factor in the game. Don't let Colorado State get the hope. Just go out there and play a good game. Get ahead early. Even if Colorado State makes a run later at that point, they're going to use that energy you just talked about, Rod, to have to come back in it. This is a game that it's going to be frustrating for Longhorns to watch. I know a lot of that this season has been that, but it's going to be frustrating for the most part because you understand you should be able to run away with this, but you're probably not going to.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. And then to that point about they may not run away with it. They're only a 2.5 point favorite.
Yeah.
Ken Palm basically has it as a push. He has it as a 50-50 game. It could go either way. And he's got the winning team winning 73-72. There is a nice little storyline here, though, between Max Abmas, Texas top scorer, and Colorado State's top scorer, Isaiah Stevens. They're both from the Dallas area. Max Abmas went to Rockwall. I think Isaiah Stevens went to Allen. That's like 20 miles apart there in the DFW area. And they actually met before in that 2021-22 season where Max Abmas is part of that Oral Roberts team that ended up making a run to the tournament, I believe, that year. Max Abmas played against Isaiah Stevens. Now, Oral Roberts got beat by Colorado. It was in the regular season in the non-conference. But Abmas scored 20 points. Isaiah Stevens had 13 points and 6 assists. Those guys are going to be big. The guard play is going to be big. Colorado State's got a really good guard. Nick Clifford, he's their leading rebounder. He's a guard with some size. He had 17 points, 10 rebounds, 6 assists versus Virginia. Just talked about Isaiah Stevens from the Dallas area. Apparently, he and Max Abmas are actually friends too. It's been reported that not only are they from the same area, they've known each other for a while, and they are considered friends. So Max Abmas got a little bit more motivation going up against someone he's got some familiarity with.
Yeah, I mean, it makes you want to try and play a little bit harder, and Max Abmas is going to be a big factor in this game for Texas. We know if he plays well, Dylan Disu, we're expecting to play well. If Max Abmas plays well with Dylan Disu, they're a really hard team to beat. So you hope that Max comes out with the intensity that he hasn't played with a ton this season. He's done it in certain games. He's done it in matchups like this where it's not necessarily a Big 12 matchup with oversized guards or bigger guards that are going to be able to really focus on him. If Tyrese Hunter and IT Horton hit shots early, then Max Abmas should be able to get going, and that's what you want to see. But you also have to worry about this Colorado State team allowing you to shoot some threes early, seeing if they can get you to try and shoot yourself out of the game, get those long rebounds where Colorado State, not a great rebounding team. Long rebounds are easier to get sometimes for the guards for Colorado State. So they may be trying to do that as well. You just have to be careful that if those threes don't fall, attack the rim. Don't let them make you a three-point shooting team.
Yeah, I love what you said earlier too about attacking the boards. Colorado State is a poor rebounding team, 302nd in the nation in rebounding. So Texas, with their athletic big men, also should be able to win the battle of the boards as well. So it's a matchup for Texas. Effort and execution. If Texas executes and they give max effort and they keep the intensity level high, I think Texas will win this game comfortably. If they don't, then we could be in for a dogfight against Colorado State. And I definitely could see that happen. All right. Good stuff there, breaking it down with my man Patrick. We got Raj Rant today, which we'll push Raj Rant to next segment. Next segment, we'll do Raj Rant, which will actually be discussion about the new kickoff return rule in the NFL, or kickoff return. They're going to change it. At least they're discussing a proposal to change it, I should say. But the momentum seems to be on that side, that the NFL could change their kickoff return and now move closer to the XFL's version of the kickoff return. We'll talk about what the proposal is, how that does help a Longhorn, actually a lifetime Longhorn, I can call him now, heading to the NFL. We'll also get to some Dak Prescott conversation. Tad Prescott, Dak's brother, actually, for the first time that I can remember, has actually spoken out about Dak's status with the Cowboys. We'll play that audio. My man Patrick Davis has edited it for us. So we'll play that audio, talk a little Cowboys on the other side too. We'll do that right here on the next segment coming up on the Rodcast featuring Patrick Davis. I'm lifetime Longhorn Rod Babers, coming right back on the Horn. All right, welcome back to the Rodcast. I want to get to the new proposal, the summary of the kickoff play proposal that the NFL is considering. They would need 3/4 of the vote for the NFL owners to actually change a rule, but there's a momentum that the NFL is thinking about. And obviously, at this point, thinking about changing their kickoff return, and they are using the XFL's kickoff return model as an inspiration, and it's very similar. I mean, they got some principles that they've kind of hybridized the XFL kickoff and the NFL kickoff, but the NFL believes that their kickoff return is a wasted play, right? In the Super Bowl, every kickoff was a touchback, and now the NFL is dealing with their touchback rate essentially rising. It's like 60-70% of their kickoffs going to end up being touchbacks. I think you're at the point now where a third of your kicks are returned. So the NFL wants to, instead of shadow banning the kickoff, which was one of the most dangerous plays, still is the most dangerous play in the NFL, even when it's not returned, there's still a lot of high-speed collisions that happen, which is why the NFL thought, no, we're just going to shadow ban the whole damn thing, all right? But now there's a movement to just, if you could transition to a safer kickoff return, why not just go to a safer kickoff return instead of making it a moot play? And that's what this movement is about. So the XFL kickoff return, essentially the alignment, all the kicking team players, other than the kicker, will line up with 1 foot on the receiving team's, like the receiving team's 40-yard line. And the kicker cannot cross the 50-yard line until the ball touches the ground or a player in the landing zone or in the end zone. The landing zone essentially is between the goal line and the 20. And the receiving team will line up in the setup zone, a 5-yard area from the 35 to the 30-yard line, where at least 9 receiving team players must line up. So essentially, you got one group on the 30 or 35 and the opposing team on the 40. So they're only 5 yards apart. So you eliminate the high-speed collisions right there. And neither one of these parties can move until the ball is actually caught. All right, so 10 players, they cannot move. For the kicking team, the 10 players cannot move except for the kicker until the ball hits the ground or the player in the landing zone on the receiving team or the end zone catches the ball, feels the football. All the players in the setup zone for the receiving team cannot move until the kick has hit the ground or a player receives it in the landing zone or it hits the ground in the landing zone, like I said. So and about this, and they're incentivizing now teams to return the football and for kickers now to kick the football where it is returnable, right? So you don't want touchbacks. So any kick that hits in the landing zone, goal line to the 20, must be returned. Any kick hits before the landing zone is a touchback to the 40, as if it went out of bounds. If a kick hits the landing zone, rolls into the zone, and is down, touchback to the 20, the kick lands in the end zone or goes out of the back of the end zone, that's a touchback to the 35. So the kicking team is penalized now for just kicking it through the end zone and making it a wasted play and making it a moot play. They're trying to infuse drama into this play now. They want there to be drama in the kickoff return again, and they want to give great athletes a chance to return the football again. So if you got a kicker that's just booming the football through the uprights every damn time and out of the back of the end zone, now that's an asset. That's, if they change the rule, it won't be, because you'll have touchbacks that get to the 35 and the 40 to penalize the kicking team and incentivize the return team. And the onside kicks have the only difference. The onside kick proposal is that when the fourth quarter begins, you have to alert the officials that you're going to do an onside kick. And other than that, the onside kick rules are the same.
I thought they were going to try and weight them. They were going to try and weight them where you could have more people over on the onside kick to try and raise the chances that you may be able to actually get it.
Yeah, this proposal doesn't have that. I think that was one of the other the previous proposal.
Okay, gotcha.
This new one doesn't have that stipulation in it, but I mean, they could always add that or change it. But like I said, if this happens, really good for Keelan Robinson.
Yeah,
really good for Keelan Robinson if they go to this, because he's the best kickoff returner in this draft class, and it will change the game. I'm hoping they change it. I don't know if this could be the answer, but I do want them to make it safer, which they can do. And I want to say the XFL return rate is like 80-something%. like 80% of their kicks end up being returned, which is ultimately what you want in the NFL, because that has been a wasted moot play for as long as I can remember now. Ever since they decided to kind of legislate violence out of the game, which is smart. The concussion crisis forced them to do that. But now, with that being said, at one point the kickoff was becoming more of a burden than a benefit, right? You had more concussions on that play than any other play in football, and the NFL was thinking, well, why are our concussion rates are still rising because of this one play? Let's get rid of that damn one play, and then our concussion rates will drop, will decrease. And I guess that's right in theory. So basically it become more of a burden than a benefit. I always say, like, some things in our society are more of a burden than a benefit. Like the penny costs more to make than it actually is worth. Like, that's more of a burden on our society than a benefit. And that's what the kickoff had become. But now they want to change that, infuse some drama in the kickoff. And I think now those commercial breaks around the kickoff won't be as annoying. That's because everybody's figured out now you're gonna have a commercial break. All right, then you're going to come back, kick it off, and then you're going to take another commercial break sometimes. If that's going to happen, you know what? I'll just take that whole time off. I'll go I'll go to the bathroom. I'll go cook nachos, whatever it is. The NFL now wants you to come back. They're like, no, come back, because now we got drama on this play.
Well, and they've tried to fix the extra point, because it was extra point commercial. And then, and as soon as the touchdown was scored, you're like, cool, I can go get something to drink, or I can go to the bathroom and then I'll come back. But now I'm missing the commercials, which is the whole point of all of this, is to sell the advertising. That's why all these guys are making so much money in TV revenue and all of that. So let's add some drama in that. But I think it also makes it for, when you see these games where it is close at the end and you just punt it out of the end zone, or you're trying to get it, or the defender is trying to make sure it's a touchback so they can get the ball at the 25 without wasting any time, and you don't get to see the Memorial Day miracle, and you don't get to see these great runbacks that are part of football history. If you add some of that drama back in, that anyone can be the hero in a game, and it can come down to special teams on those kickoffs, you can shift momentum that quickly in a game. I love all those aspects. You want to not take that completely out of the game, and I agree, you have to change something. You have to make some sort of change, because it is now everyone's going to just try and, if you're a coach, you can justifiably say, we don't want to spend too much effort on this because the injuries are not worth what we're going to do. We need the roster space. So this guy who's returning is also a wide receiver for us. I can't lose him. So I don't want him returning. I don't have another returner. So I get it. You just have to find a way to make it work. I think this is a better solution. The NFL's been good about adjusting things. I like going to try this out. And if it doesn't work, keep adjusting it, keep working on it, keep tweaking it, and find the way where it works best and everybody's happy.
Yep, I think this definitely makes it safer. Will it make it more exciting? Possibly too. I think it will make it more exciting, depending on the athletes they put back there. And that's where we get to guys like Keelan Robinson, or teams who may decide, you know what, let's see if the game's on the line, we're going to put Tyreek Hill back there.
Yeah.
And see if we can break this damn thing wide open, really put some pressure on the opposing team, special teams units. Good stuff there. Okay, can we play this Tad Prescott sound really quickly before we go to break here? Tad Prescott, Dak Prescott's brother, who usually is very active on social media, voicing his opinion about Dak and about whatever the Cowboys are involved in. He recently spoke up and actually went on a podcast, and he was speaking about Dak's contract status and Dak's status with the Cowboys. I thought it was interesting because we really never hear from him. We social media, we see his tweets and posts, but we never really hear from Tad. And it's interesting. I think this may be calculated coming from the Dak Prescott camp, because usually you're telling Tad, I mean, he would have had to get I would have thought that he would have gotten at least the okay from Dak Prescott and Dak Prescott's people before he went off on a podcast and started talking about Dak Prescott's status with the Cowboys. But here is Tad Prescott, and he's got a message for Cowboys fans about Dak.
He truly wants to be a Cowboy for life. Like, I'm not joking when I say that boy grew up worshiping the Dallas Cowboys. Him being drafted by them, whether it was, pick number 1 or pick, Mr. Irrelevant, that was his dream. And to be their starting quarterback, their face, their franchise, that's something I know he wants to continue to do. How I feel about it, again, all aside, is truly how he feels about it. I support him no matter where he wants to be, no matter what he wants to do. I've made the comments on Twitter that I want him out of Dallas. Again, that has been more so to the fans that constantly write me or DM me that your brother ain't brother will never win. Your brother's nothing. So I'm like, well, cool. Get him out of Dallas so you can see what this franchise will look like without 12 of the season, without a guy that constantly puts y'all in position on the playoffs. Could he have a better playoff record? He'll tell you himself he could. But still, like I said, over the last 3 seasons, this guy has 36 wins in the regular season. So you just want to get rid of.
All right, there you go. Dak Prescott. The message, I think, was pretty clear there at the beginning that, hey, and this is a guy, Dak Prescott, has been on the record via social media. I'm glad he admitted there where he's saying, oh, no, Dak needs to go somewhere else so that Dak can show these Cowboys fans what they're missing. Because they don't understand what a sweet position they are in to have Dak Prescott as their starting quarterback. But he admitted it there, like, no, I've on the record, I've said that Dak Prescott should go elsewhere. But then the message at the beginning is Dak Prescott wants to be a Dallas Cowboy for life. I don't think it's a coincidence that he's in a contract negotiation, Patrick, with the Cowboys now. And this is the message coming from the Prescott camp, I would say. It's as close as you can get. It's a brother. Not Dak Prescott himself, but I definitely think the message was approved by Dak Prescott. It's like those political ads you see.
Yes.
It's like, and I approve this. I feel actually Dak Prescott in the corner right now, like, and I approve this message.
Yeah.
That's how I feel about what Tad just said.
Yeah, and I don't think it's a thing. I don't think it's a message to the Cowboys. I think it's a message to the Cowboys fans that Dak Prescott wants to be there, that Dak Prescott's not the one holding up these negotiations, that Dak's not the guy who is being selfish here. And the Cowboys message so far has been passive aggressively, well, we're trying to get things done, but we don't have a lot of cap room. And this guy, and we need to re-sign Dak to get the cap room, but he wants to get paid and he wants to get that. And that's kind of been the Dallas Cowboys message is we can't do anything. We don't have any room in free agency because Dak Prescott's he's $60 million. We can't pay anybody because he's making so much money. I think that they're trying the Dak Prescott camp is trying to salvage some of the public opinion because they know the public opinion is what will help push Jerry to actually spend the money and Steven to spend the money and pay him accordingly to what he would get on the free market, to what he would get somewhere else. Again, we saw Kirk Cousins just get $180 million, who is older than Dak Prescott and doesn't have the regular season success that Dak Prescott has. And again, you can talk about the playoffs all you want. I agree. We all can agree they need to be better in the playoffs. I don't know if that's 100% on Dak Prescott. He hasn't played great, but at the same point, there's a reason why quarterbacks make so much money in the NFL is because if you don't have one, it's bad.
Yeah, no, it's not Dak's fault. All his fault that they have the miserable playoff record with him as starting quarterback, but it is his responsibility to get it turned around.
Yep.
That's why he's paid the big bucks. That's why he is paid the big bucks. So an interesting conversation there about the Cowboys. Tomorrow we can get to the Cowboys coaching staff. They did finally finalize their coaching staff. I wanted to get into that today. We ran out of time. So they did finalize their coaching staff. So we'll dive into that a little bit more tomorrow and talk some more Dallas Cowboys. Cowboys were well represented, though, at the Texas Pro Day. I believe they had 3 scouts, and Brian Schottenheimer, their offensive coordinator, was there at the Texas Pro Day. So Cowboys fans out there, I mean, Cowboys, they need a lot. They got a lot of holes right now that they got to fill. And you could see some Longhorns fill some of those holes for the Cowboys. So good stuff there. All right, we come back. We'll get into who said that. Then get ready to wrap this thing up and put it in the oven. It is the Rodcast featuring Patrick Davis. I'm lifetime Longhorn Rod Babers coming right back on the horn. All right, welcome back to the Rodcast. It is a new theme Thursday, and this new theme on this Thursday is madness. It is a tribute to March Madness, which we are in the midst of right now. Longhorns will be taking on the Colorado State Rams tonight. That's just the men. The women will be in action tomorrow. But in honor of March Madness, my man Patrick decided that all the songs need to reference madness, crazy, insanity, and other forms. So that is the shout out to New Theme Thursday, or that is the key to it. That is the subject matter. It's all about March Madness, and we will tomorrow, of course, we'll talk about the ladies and what they have to do. But today we've been breaking down the men, Texas versus Colorado State, and I think Patrick and myself feel confident the Longhorns are going to take care of business in the first round of the NCAA tournament. But in the meantime, it's time for Who Said That. Before we get out of here, that's when we play audio clips from the sports world and beyond. And you out there can play with us and try to figure out who said that. This is a great clip. It is a coach who was fired early on in the regular season. Won't even tell you who it is. We'll tell you after. Who was fired in the regular season, but they decided to let him finish out the season. And in finishing out the season, he won the conference tournament, which got himself an automatic bid in the NCAA tournament. And this dude's still playing.
He's still
coaching, I should say. Still coaching. Here is his post-game press conference, which might be one of the greatest coaching press conferences we've ever seen, or at least the reference was. Here is Who Said That.
It's like you guys see the Seinfeld when George Costanza was trying to get fired and couldn't lose his job and still going to work every day, and that's me. I'm a Seinfeld episode going on right now in real life.
That is the Long Beach State coach, Dan Munson, who was fired, but since he got fired, he's won his conference tournament, the Big West tournament.
They agreed to mutually part ways. Basically, near the end of the season, they said, look, this isn't going the way either one of us expected it to go. We're going to mutually part ways. I'll go a different way. You don't want me here, and I don't want to be here anymore. Wow. But I'll care about the kids. I'll fight for the kids, so I'll finish out the season for them. And now they're in the NCAA tournament. Yeah, that is
dude. What seed are they? Because that should be a great Cinderella story. If they keep winning, that'd be one of the best stories in the tournament right there.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I should have looked this up already, but
no, that's fair. No, I'm just saying, going back to your big fat poll today, that's a hell of a Cinderella.
Yeah.
They can't be ranked that high. I don't know. I haven't
no, because they're an automatic bid, which of those always fall pretty low on the spectrum.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
I still don't even see them on my bracket.
Oh, man. There you go. Dan was, first of all, I love any Seinfeld reference, but then to actually be living it. He's like, no, I'm living this right now. I wanted to be fired, but now I'm thriving in this position as the head coach of a team.
Oh, they're the 15 seed playing Arizona.
Oh, that's my favorite Cinderella. At the end of the show, we find out my favorite Cinderella story. I'm rooting for Long Beach State, baby. Come on, Long Beach State. Come on, keep it going. We got to keep this Seinfeldian drama alive. All right, thank you, Patrick, for everything you do, man. You are the man. Thank you guys out there for listening. We really appreciate all your participation. The revolution will not be televised. We're talking about it right here on the Rodcast. Everybody have a great night. Enjoy it. Take care of each other. Peace.